my own mic on. Hello, welcome to the Honest Wargamer. My name is Rob. I'm your host, Rob, and we're live in the studio. And I'm joined by 3 people today. I'm joined by Nathan.
Hello.
Perfect. Hi. I'm joined by Chuckabutty himself, Adam.
Hello.
Hi, Adam. And I'm joined by Jonathan Etland.
Hello.
And of course, we're joined by Jet the dog and his bumhole.
Come here, Jet the dog.
So I hope everyone is well. Oh, there we go. Apparently, is the dog... What's happening with the dog? So, hello everyone. We're going to be doing a show about Age of Sigmar today. I hope you enjoy watching.
Go down or stay up?
If you're enjoying this on YouTube, I feel like we could have sorted this dog situation before we went live. What do you think?
Well, he was lying down until you started talking about stuff.
Oh, there we go.
We can't hear Jonathan. Jonathan, hello?
Yeah, hello. I just decided not to speak.
That's sweet. So before we go any further, hello to everyone on Twitch, hello to everyone on the podcast and YouTube who's watching. Jonathan, before we go any further, is it true that last week, we're going to get to our new host in a moment over there, is it true last week that you were outside Games Workshop protesting with a sign?
Yeah, that's true.
And how did that go?
It said, I'm not angry, I'm just dispossessed. Disappointed. Which is kind of the same thing, right?
Grumbling.
Grumbling,
Yeah.
Is that what you're doing? Old grumbler.
I remember back in the days when Iron Guts didn't have 20-inch reach.
Right, okay. So, to prefix the show, hi WS10P, the Mizia, thanks for subscribing. Also, someone else subscribed earlier, thank you very much. So you're well, Jonathan? You're well? Glad to have you back.
All good. All good.
Perfect. Nathan, are you well?
Yeah, I'm great, thanks. Why?
Perfect. I'm just asking, seeing if you're alright.
Sure. How are you doing?
Oh, that's very nice of you. Thanks very much. I'm very tired. I had a long weekend playing 40k. I learned some things. 40k players, not quite as fun as AOS players. And also, better dancers.
I don't think so, man.
I don't want to start something now, but they all came out on Saturday night, and some of those guys can... Sean, big shout out to Sean from Twisted Dice, he can dance like a legend. Toby has been on the show before. Great dancer, great shirt. So I've learned some things.
Clothes off, pose off.
So thanks for asking, Nate. Appreciate that. And our newest member of the team, Adam, do you want to introduce yourself?
I'm Adam. Chuckabutty. That's me.
Yeah, you're Chuckabutty. Good.
And yeah. What do you want me to say? Do you want me to say about
why are you
achievement?
here? Why did I ask you to come on?
Right, Rob asked me to come on because I'm a dumbass about AOS, basically.
But super excited about it.
Really, really excited. Really excited about AOS. But I don't know a huge amount. I haven't been in it as long as you guys, so I've got a lot of questions, and I'm going to be asking the stupid questions that other people are too scared to ask because they feel like they should know it already.
Yeah, so because one of the things that got brought up to me was that maybe sometimes we talk like with a bit of assumed knowledge, like we will talk about things because we know a little bit more, or maybe some of those things seem obvious. So what's really good is to get someone to go, I don't really understand what the fuck that means, and then we can explain it out. So Adam, thanks for playing that role. Also, Adam's fairly funny, but obviously, please, if you're listening back, can you all review his funniness?
What?
Out of obviously a sliding scale. Nathan and Jonathan equal top, me second. Decide where you place Adam at the end of the show, if that's fine. So not only do you have to ask questions, you also have to be funny. Are you feeling that pressure?
There's a lot of pressure to put on me. But I would say, if anybody's got stupid questions, just message me in Twitch, private message me, and I'll ask the stupid question.
Oh, to ask us?
Yeah, to ask these guys.
That'd be fun.
So, yeah.
So, hello everyone, welcome to the show. Me Smash, thanks for donating 1,000 bits, you babe. And it's currently the leaderboard this week. He's smashing the leaderboard top. Right, that's enough of the show and just touching ourselves. AOS 2, thankfully, everything's fine and nothing else is going on.
Good. All right, next subject.
Next subject. Okay. So,
Just ask a stupid question.
So the news from this weekend, is that there was the AOS Six Nations, so the first competitive Age of Sigmar event in the world. Great news. And also 2 battle tomes released at the same time. More great news. Yeah. And a few updates to the app. And you've got Chuckle Buddy, Adam, tell us how you feel, what are you most excited about AOS 2?
The sexy Stormcast, to be honest. That's all that really matters, isn't it? As long as they're massively overpowered. that's all that matters.
That's all you care about?
That's all I care about.
Now, I'm not 100% sure, but your brother may be watching, and you and your brother played a game on Friday, right?
He might be watching, and we did play a game.
And what happened? So you played the Soul Wars box against each other?
We did, yeah, and I absolutely smashed him. But I think only because we had Stormcast have the starter box. There's about 200 points difference between them. More. So it's 200 points more Stormcast.
And thankfully, all the units in there are definitely points costed correctly. So that 200 point difference isn't even.
Yeah.
You know, like the Ballista's 100 points, and that's fine.
Yeah, exactly. What's wrong with that? It's not broken.
Jonathan, any questions?
He's struggling to breathe.
It's flies. And yeah, so we played a game. It was good. I thought it was good fun, and then we kind of got towards the end, and my brother wasn't enjoying it so much because he was just getting taken apart by an overpowered army. Ultimately.
Okay. But then Sigmar did release the
I don't know, like,
does he just lack skill?
The new start
does he lack skill? No, he does not lack skill.
What do you think? There was an even starker difference between the two armies in the last box, Jonathan?
No, I'm saying, like, how was the balance there? Did anybody play the start box from the last edition? I think. I mean, it's beautiful, Adam, that you try the start box. I don't think anybody does that.
Yeah. So
I think new people do.
AOS.
I think that's the point, right? That's what
exactly.
new people do.
Yeah. So we started AOS with the original starter box. So he was Khorne, I was Stormcast, and we played loads of games, and they all felt pretty balanced. I mean, I got smashed every time, but they felt pretty balanced. And this new one, it felt I was able to make so many mistakes. He sent the pendulum straight down the middle of my guys. I had to split them and get them out of the way, and I still managed to recover and just take them apart easily. The evocators are broken as fuck.
You really like. As a brand new player to the game,
they're not broken. Don't change them. They're wonderful. I don't know why I'm saying that.
So as a new player to the game, that's your overarching opinion.
Stormcast are great. Fuck everything else.
And the evocators are the best unit in the game.
They're the best unit in that starter box, definitely. And of the units I've played in AOS 2, given that I've played the one game, yeah, I would say they're MVU so far from me.
Most valuable unit.
But it's not really tasty for 100 points.
Yeah, it's 100 points, yeah. Nathan?
The ballista.
How did the ballista go?
It didn't do all that great because I kept it at range, so I kept it at the single firing thing. But the first 2 turns, I forgot that it does D6 attacks when it hits. So the first 2 times I just did one attack each, and I didn't.
So you didn't do great, Adam. The ballista did just fine.
It did fine. The driver was rubbish.
Okay, so that's good. I wonder if anyone else out there has played the starter box versus the starter box. I think a lot of new people obviously do that, and I think that's actually a really sweet way into the hobby, right? You know, but not for, as your brother experienced, the person who's played with the underpowered part of the box.
Yes.
So if there's anyone out there thinking of getting into Age of Sigmar, probably the thing to think about is, you know, like if you're going to break that box up with your friend, and then both of you are going to play against each other, you know, drop a unit of the Stormcast or something to try and balance it out a little bit more, yeah?
The other thing to think about as well is neither one of us played with the battle tomes because it was Friday night, the day before they both came out.
Okay.
So there was no artifacts. We didn't play in a realm. All we had was a single endless spell each. I took the Balewind Vortex, and he had the pendulum, etheric pendulum. That one, the pendulum.
The pendulum. That's the easiest way to describe it, I think. Oh, hold on.
Just gonna ask chat if my sound is better now, or if it's still.
You do sound better.
Do I?
Yeah, I think
It
so.
must be this expensive piece of monstrosity that I have between my legs here.
You got a microphone.
Yeah, I swapped from my potato phone to Skynet, basically.
Skynet is real. Yeah. All right, so that sounds like really fun. Nathan, since last we saw you, have you played any Age of Sigmar 2?
Yeah, I played against Nick from the Brain Squid guy from WS10. But we used the open war cards, I think they're called.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that was just a fun game. It was good.
Just playing some Warhammer.
Just playing Warhammer, rolling dice, talking, reminiscing. Yeah, it was good.
Good.
Good stuff.
Good. Hi, Tiny King. Hi,
WS10 Pete has a question.
What is it?
I feel like I shouldn't ask you this,
Ask
so
it,
maybe
it's
we should
fine.
save it for later. He says, "Hey, bud, ask Rob." I shouldn't have said his name. I was going to say
Just ask that question later.
Ask Rob who Martin Morris is.
Right, we'll get onto that later. Right now, that's not the plan. So, so you have played some great Warhammer and you enjoyed it, Nath?
Yeah. I've enjoyed. Yeah, and then we played, but there was that.
That was before.
Yeah.
I'm going to play. I want to play a lot of Age of Sigmar 2 this week and next week. I'm a little bit reticent, obviously, because clearly as a community, and if no one knows, obviously we're waiting for, there needs to be, or there should be, or we're hoping there is, a large FAQ about some of the releases to date, which is why we're not doing the Stormcast or the Nighthaunt review, because I imagine there'll be some changes in 2 weeks. That's the timeline for that. So, I'm in this kind of hobby limbo, which is a bit weird, 2 weeks after release, that I'm still not 100% confident about talking about the game. Definitely up for playing some games, but talking about the game and where it's going to settle. But I want to play some. I'm going to play with my Chaos Dwarves, so I'm going to try and rebase them in the next couple of weeks. But I've been at a 40k event this weekend, and I was prepping my army for 40k event this weekend. So I've had a long weekend of that, and now AOS 2 in my teeth. I go. I'm super excited. Someone was sweet enough also to donate a Seraphon army to me, which is great. So I'm excited because I was worried I might not be able to summon enough Seraphon, but then someone gave me some. So what a treasure! What a treasure! Yeah.
Joy.
Right. So hi Vladium, thanks for subscribing, you super babe. Thanks to everyone for joining us. So should we talk about what happened at the weekend? Oh, yeah. Jonathan, have you played any AOS since it's come out? Since last week? Or since last time we saw you?
Yeah, I mean, I played a few games, not much.
And
but mostly I've been like reminiscing over what I don't like and what I like, but mostly what I don't like and like how to fix it. So I did a list, but we can talk about that list later on maybe. It was just like a spontaneous thing. Like I did it before the Six Nations.
Yeah.
Like what I thought we would see, and so on. And I think I did a kind of waterproof list that doesn't really like destroy any fun, but does the game good basically.
So is it fair to say you're a little bit disheartened with AOS at the minute just because of like what's shaken out since the game launched?
Well, yeah. I mean, I like a lot of things. I mean, obviously they put some effort into the new spells and stuff. Maybe not spell portal, but at least the rest of it. I like how that mechanic works.
Yeah.
And I like how they thought of things to like promote not taking the initiative. Maybe I'd like to see a bit more of that than it currently is, but at least it's a step forward. But some things, I mean, I know. I don't think that playtesters get paid. I don't think they get armies to test out. Like, do they have a Goblin playtester? If not, Donaldinho should do it. I mean, do they have a Seraphon playtester? I mean, Seraphon, it's really obvious how they just went under the radar. How some of the things are not meant for us2. But what makes me more like disappointed is really how they okay, Croak is bent as shit now, right? Especially with the spell portal. And then they do an initial FAQ and they just say Croak is fine.
Yeah, well, so I've definitely got that on my list. So I was more thinking what we could do is we could approach that. So we'll talk about what's happened this weekend. So this is the structure for everyone watching the show. We're going to talk about what happened with the AOS Six Nations. So the first competitive outing by some pretty top tier players for AOS. Then we'll talk about the fallout of that and some of the conversations being had by people in the community and ourselves. And then we'll talk about events going forward, specifically the Bravery One British Open, which Jonathan is there for. And Jonathan's written a comp pack for it. Adam's going to ask some questions about what the hell that bloody means. Yeah. and then we're just going to all have a laugh, yeah, and just work through it. And then at the end of that, Jonathan, I'm going to find a way to make you love the hobby no matter what any fucker in the world does. Because I love you, and you're staying, and we're playing games, and we're rolling dice. Is that fair?
It's fair.
Right, let's fuck it. I'm so ready. Yeah, it's like I woke up this morning after my incredibly good sleep, and I thought, there's a few people who I love in the world. That guy there, this guy in here, you guys out there. We're fucking gonna make AOS great. Let's do this. So start off AOS Six Nations. 6 teams of 8 people played this weekend. Adam, did you know about this?
I've heard about this on the grapevine. Yes.
Perfect. Absolutely cool. And it was England were the current champions. It was being hosted by Scotland. Scotland. So I've heard. People have been messaging me.
Is it coming home though?
That's the question, Nathan. That was the question. Is it bloody coming home? Is Warhammer coming home? Yeah. And guess what? It may well have come home, right? Yeah. That's the thing.
Spoilers.
You guys cheated a bit though. You brought 2 teams.
Pardon me?
2
You
teams.
cheated. You brought 2 teams.
How do we have 2 teams?
Wales is English as well. Well, they have.
Oh my God! Don't tell a Welshman they're English. Do not tell a Welshman they're English.
Adam, truth be told, most of the Welsh were actually English.
Yeah, but so most of the Americans were too. Don't tell them they're English.
Jonathan, you're being talked about in the chat there. So yeah, 6 nations played against each other, and it was Sweden, Wales, England, Northern Ireland, Republic of Ireland, Scotland. I think that's it. Yeah, I've named them all. And most importantly, before we go any further, a couple of people have messaged me, team captains, and over the next couple of days, I'm going to be interviewing the team captains offline, so not online, and then they'll go up on the Patreon, and then they'll go up on the podcast. So listen out for that. And thank you to all those guys who've messaged me to talk about that. I'm really excited to talk about them. I got a couple of bits of... Obviously, I wasn't there, but I got a bit of information. Number one, apparently the venue was incredible. Yeah, organisation was amazing. They had deodorant in the toilets, yeah, which is a big deal, right? Yeah, they were like clever, yeah, useful, right? So that's nice. And also it was a hot weekend. And apparently it was just really well run and really fantastic.
Do they have any scenery?
Oh, scenery was also really, really good, apparently. Boards were great. Yeah. Everything was fine. So that's
but how does that, sorry. In terms of setting it up though, so the organisers, they have to buy all the scenery, and so they've got to buy it, paint it, put it all on the table, right?
Yeah.
And how many tables were there?
Well, there would have been 8
players.
8 players 3 times would have been 16. There would have been 24 tables.
24 tables with a full table of scenery. Now, there's other tournaments that they still do that because, they have to put their own scenery, their own money in.
Did you have to bring your own scenery? Does anyone know?
No. The scenery was...
But I mean, as a TO, the TOs have to do all the scenery work themselves. Is that right?
And Donaldinho saying it was also great food, which is number one, the selling point for me. Yeah.
And also a surprise being in Scotland.
Yeah. Wait, they didn't just deep fry everything? It wasn't just a deep fried thing in a can of iron brew? Oh. What the hell?
It wasn't?
It wasn't?
Oh, okay, well that's...
Maybe they broke open the haggis for...
Isn't that USP of Scotland?
Oh, hold on. It was a gaming venue, so it was hold. There we go. So
okay, cool.
So that's really fun. That's really exciting, and they played. And spoilers, we'll talk about it now. Team England won and are still the reigning champions. Stop that. So, congratulations, Team England. Obviously, that's brilliant. Yeah. Nathan, happy about that?
Well done for everybody else taking part.
You ecstatic about that?
I am.
I was kind of rooting for Team Wales.
Are you?
Yeah.
Oh.
Why?
Or Team Northern Ireland.
Northern Ireland.
I don't know. You got to pick someone, right?
No.
Are you English?
Huh?
Do you not just... Isn't it a natural thing to pick...
What? Say that again?
Isn't it a natural thing to pick one's home nation?
I don't know. Why? That sounds boring. Isn't that rubbish? You don't just marry the girl who's in your local town. You travel abroad.
Oh shit!
Have sex with a couple of Thai girls, maybe. Really mix that shit up.
You say Thai girls,
not the same as a tournament.
Is it not?
No, that's having sex with people.
Oh. Is that not the same as a tournament then?
No.
Oh wow! There's a lot of people getting it wrong then.
Yep.
Jonathan, your Swedish cohorts, they had some words to say.
Yeah, they enjoyed it a lot. They thought it was a great tournament, great organized, but obviously some rules made it a bit weird. But yeah, it was close, and I don't know if you guys have seen the results, like the chat, but Sweden did good, very good. I'm very proud of them.
So yeah, actually talking about that, England won. Congratulations, well done. Second was Sweden. Third was
and
Team
it
Wales.
Was close as well.
Huh?
Close as well.
It was. So there
England,
was. Oh, go on, John. Go on, John.
England won by 20 points. Sweden. I mean, there's a lot of things like butterfly effects, but one thing I've heard that one mission you could keep on scoring even though the dude was died and scored.
Yeah, so I've got all the info on that. Definitely. We'll
cool.
we'll talk through that as well and see what you guys think, and that's going to tie into our comp conversation later. So yeah, those three. Those are 3 teams. And Adam, do you know how capping scores works for a team tournament?
I can guess just by the name.
So there, So there are 8 teams. There are 8
capped.
players. Yeah, there are 8 players playing, and they could only score a maximum of 100 points. Yeah, but and I think they could only score a minimum of 60. I think that was it. I did have it written down. I forgot to look. And it ended up that England only won by 20 points if you took caps into account.
Where do you get points from? Is that from
the games being won? So if you won a game outright, 20-0. Yeah. Right. So you could potentially end up with, if over 8 games, 160 points for your team. But the max you could get is 100 for your actual team.
Right, okay, so it's each round, so you've got all of your players in your team playing a game at the time, so at the end of it, it's how many points you get.
Yeah. It was 100, apparently it was 120 points as a cap, I'm super sorry. Yeah, so 120 points as the cap. So then the fact that, and England actually ended up without cap, I remember reading this stat, 510 points. But when you took caps into account, there was only a 20-point difference between England and Sweden. So Sweden almost took it away, which when I spoke to the Swedish team captain, and when we did the list review show, he was saying that their lists were all AOS 1 lists that they practiced loads. Then obviously AOS 2 came out and there was stuff and they were just like, fuck it, we'll just take the same thing and just give it a whirl. Sort of.
Surely all of the teams would have been in the same sort of boat, right?
Pardon me?
Surely all of the teams would have been in the same boat.
Yeah.
Because absolutely. We all got we all got slapped in the face by AOS 2 coming out in one go, right?
Because some of the teams had people that have been playtesting, so they would be in a different boat, wouldn't they?
Okay, alright. Yeah.
Well, he didn't know that, did he? Yeah, that's why you asked questions.
Maybe a speedboat, and then everybody else is in a longboat. I like longboats. I'd have been in the longboats.
Longboats didn't stop the Vikings, right?
No, they didn't. No. I mean, after a while, yes, but for a while, technologically, the longboat was stellar.
I suppose if you had a speedboat back then, you'd be like, "See ya,
yeah,
piss off, Vikings."
We didn't have that, so we took all your shit, man, including all the good genes, buddy.
Yeah. But don't worry, don't worry. England England did not forget in the 1800s. They remembered
loads of genes from everywhere.
So that was the and obviously, I suppose, really the crux of the. We talked about this list, didn't we? Well, I talked about the lists in the list review show, and some of the stuff seemed a bit OTT in its capacity in the gaming world. But obviously, when you talk about stuff, so I've got a little bit of maybe a phrase throw at you guys and see what you think. Like, as a person, like, I'm at that kind of... Do you ever see those people doing stunts, you know, and they do a thing where they, like, backflip off the top of a building and they, like, land it perfectly, and that's great. But then you see the other person who thinks, that's a great idea, I'll do that, and they die, or they hurt themselves, or something similar.
Yeah.
To a certain degree, I feel that there's a certain intellectual prowess that you are, where you think, I probably won't do that, that seems like a silly idea. And you don't need to go into the practice of doing it to learn that it's a silly idea. That's kind of my analogy. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. When we did the list review show, we were like, some of this seems to be a bit bonkers and probably is a bit silly. Now they've had the tournament and the results are in, and I think they might be a bit silly. Nathan, what do you think of that?
I don't understand the analogy. If you're gonna,
okay.
I mean, if you're gonna take if you're going to go and play for your country, you're going to take you're going to take sort of the hardest list you're going to take.
Which I completely agree with, and you absolutely should do.
And then because it's a team tournament, you can try and get the matchups to line up the way you want it to go. So therefore, that's why you can take lists that are skewed heavily one way or the other, because you think, oh, I'm going to take this list, okay, against certain types of lists it's going to get nailed, but against other types of lists it's going to kick dick. So then you've got to try and line up your matchups as well.
How do you do that then?
But
so how does it get picked who you play against?
That's a game within the game is how you determine your matchups. So there's processes where you put an army forward secretly, and they put an army forward secretly, and they're both revealed at the same time. Then you both put 2 armies forward to play against that one army, and so now your opponent has to pick one of those 2. The one that they don't pick gets to play the other one that wasn't picked, and then the last 2 play each other.
Okay.
So it's quite.
Do you know what the battle plan is before you do that?
And then that's the different thing is you roll a battle plan for each. So as you're picking, you roll the battle plan. So now you can pick against. Yeah, you can try and match it so you're playing against a certain army. Yeah. Or you can, rather than doing that, which I think is probably more important, you play the scenario.
Yeah.
Some armies are just better at certain scenarios. So, and then, yeah.
And I agree with you on that. That wasn't really the crux of my point. Where I was more aiming it towards were anything within the game that's legal to play, I think, and we're going to touch on this conversation again later, anything that's legal to play in the game, I think you take and you use and you play and you win games, and that's what you do when you go to tournaments, and I'm super on board with that, and I think every player that does that is doing the right thing. What I mean is knowing that I can cast Lord Croak's spell 3 times, I didn't need to go to a game nor have a tournament tell me that that was a silly idea, is what I meant. And I don't mean for the players, I mean for the rules guys to have in our game. That's my point.
What's Lord Croak's spell?
So we will talk about this. So should we talk about, Jonathan, do you want to throw an analogy in there to clear it up maybe?
Yeah, it's like I said this in the chat earlier. Like you remember when you were a kid and like looked at the stove and like I wonder if that thing on top is hot. I know it is hot, but how hot is it? I'm gonna put my hand on it. It's fucking hot.
Well, some people put their hand on it and some people don't.
I did.
You did.
Yeah, that's how I learned.
Is that the right analogy though? It's more. Like,
maybe we're struggling for the what they said.
It's always a struggle with analogies because at the end of the day, I mean, I can see what you're trying to say there, but at the end of the day, analogies are always not 100% because they're analogies.
Yeah, they're different.
So yeah,
so I think it's quite clear.
But it is. Yeah, it's very clear from the beginning. I mean, rather than to have an analogy, if you just look at it, it's very clear from the beginning that some of the stuff that was going to happen was going to be broke as shit, and not going to, and was going to be very destructive in the game to your opponent. So
the question coming away from that, before we look at the broke shit, the question coming away from that is, upon receiving it, and us being, I suppose we're really professionals in this field, as professional as you can get, but even the common person, that's not the right term, but you know what I mean. We're just going to pick Adam. Yeah, Adam reading it.
Mediocre first.
Yeah, mediocre Adam. Yeah, right. He
promoted.
Mediocre.
When he reads it and he goes, "Yeah, that's probably." Well, let's take his reaction now and see how he feels about all of the things, and then you can give us whether you think that this was a fairly obvious thing to do or not, and you can ask some questions about them. How's that sound?
All right, sounds
that's
good.
Why you're here. All right. So the first thing, which is a big deal, the easiest thing to do, is Jack Armstrong, current UK master. He's a really nice man, and we're going to talk about how he's a fucking superstar in a minute. He took Lord Croak on a Balewind. Well, on a new Balewind and Spell Portal or some other business. And he did... Now, Lord Croak can do a spell where he does D3 mortal wounds to everyone within 3d6 inches, which is cool. And he can do that spell 3 different times. Now, you would think you can only cast 1 spell a turn, but it was specifically FAQ, and that was true in AOS 1. Now, in AOS 2, it was specifically FAQ'd that that's okay. So you could do 3d3 mortal wounds for everything within 3d6 inches. Does that sound good or bad?
It sounds pretty bloody good. Yeah, it sounds really good.
3d6 inches though. Average is only 11 inches, so
Still pretty. So within him.
within him, every enemy unit within
every enemy unit within 3d6 inches.
Yeah. Takes D3
Takes
mortal wounds.
D3 mortal wounds.
Yeah.
And you can do that 3 times.
3 times.
Yeah.
How does that? Whoa. How does that sound?
That sounds nice.
Yeah, when you cast it, so you cast it on a 7. The
Yeah.
second time you cast it, it goes to an 8.
8.
And the third time you cast it, it's on a 9. So it does get harder to cast. But
Yeah.
obviously, it's a beautiful thing to get off, especially if you can
If you get all
extend
3 in
the
a row,
range
and you're on a Balewind,
Yeah,
which
so-
does extend a range.
by
Plus 6
by
inches?
6 inches.
Okay.
There's a chance
know
of
that.
using
I
a
know the thing.
portal, so you could put a mirror.
Well,
in
sorry,
The endless
it's also
spell portal.
D6 mortal wounds against demons.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So it's special hatred against chaos.
Yeah.
Demons.
So as Nathan was saying, you can actually cast it through a spell portal instead. Sorry, continue.
Yeah. So,
But
then
the-
you so now you can sit on the other side of the board, basically, put a portal there, and then just
And that'll take you 2 turns to
Pulse
do
out.
that anyway, though, right?
No.
no.
Because if you're on a Balewind and you want... I suppose you don't need the Balewind
you don't
if
need
you've
the
got a
Balewind.
portal.
Yeah.
Right,
exactly.
okay.
Or you can get somebody else to conjure up a portal,
And have it close enough
and then
to...
you sit up on your Balewind, because you cast 4 spells anyway, so you've still got then 3.
Okay.
He has also got an extra spell, which is calling down comets, which do D6 units take D3 mortal wounds or something like that,
Yeah.
or D3 units take D6. I don't know. which
D6
way.
units on take D3 mortal wounds.
Yeah,
And how many
and
times
that's
can you do
anywhere
that?
on the board, I think.
Just
Yeah,
once.
and that's infinite range.
Yeah.
Is that infinite range?
But we're not finished, because then there's a guy called an Astroloth Bannerbearer.
Yeah.
Right.
Now, an Astroloth Bannerbearer does a couple of cool things. Number one, if he stands on the board, he gives +1 to cast. Yeah. So I mean that's helpful. So that's 6, 7, 8 instead of a 7, 8, 9.
Yeah.
He also adds 8 inches to a spell. So now it's 3d6 plus 8 inches, either through a spell portal or on its own. And you can just take more of them.
Oh, so you can sack them?
100%.
What
So you
are
can
they
have
called
2.
again?
So a good system to have is to have 2.
Astroloth
You add
Bannerbearer.
+2.
How
Yeah.
much are they?
Right. So you can add 2. So that's 16 inches now,
Yeah.
plus 3d6. Yeah.
And you've got +2 to cast.
And you've got +2 to cast. And he naturally has rerolls for himself as well, potentially up to 3 rerolls personally as well. He can also be near a piece of arcane terrain.
What does Arcane Terrain do?
+1 to cast.
+1 to cast as well. So he's
So you
getting
can't
+3 to
guarantee that.
cast.
Yeah, but you can't guarantee that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So to give you an example of what happened at the weekend, Jack played a Slanesh army with Croak, and an interesting point to let's be completely fair about this. An interesting no Croak list won 5 games this weekend.
Yeah.
So that's
Is that
important.
because the Croak list came up against another Croak list?
Who knows? But Jack did 105 mortal wounds in 1 magic phase with Lord Croak. Now, how does it sound? Good or really good?
It sounds really good. Do I ever want to play against that? Nope.
Okay, as a new person, how would you feel if that happened to you?
Actually, a bit pissed off, to be honest.
GG. But it wasn't GG. It was GG.
Literally.
I don't know. It pissed you off because that's at least how many? What's the average amount of wounds in an army?
About 120, 130.
So that's
depending on what
80% of your army is gone in their hero phase. They haven't even moved. So this is just in.
What's
the
nice
hero
is you
phase.
don't have to move, so it saves you a lot of time.
But there's a counter to that, surely.
Well, so now
There
this
are a
is.
few, yeah.
Yeah, there are a few. You could do shooting. Now, what's really interesting about Lord Croak and about Seraphon and the game as a whole is obviously if you have your whole army as a single battalion, you can just deploy first, which means you get to go first, which means you get to enact your evil, meticulous plan first.
And is the Croak list one of those one drop?
It can be, if you want it to be.
Croak can't
Yeah,
be
you
in
take
a
it in Dracothian Tail, you
battalion.
can.
Okay.
So with those 2 Astroloth Bannerbearers and Croak and
Well, you
all
have
the
to take other
things
stuff.
you need. Yeah, of course.
And he is
Do you
expensive.
though?
Go on.
If you do 103 mortal wounds around, do you have to take other stuff?
Yeah, that's a really good point. Do you actually? It doesn't matter. Surely you could just take Skinks. Are they battle line?
Yeah.
Skinks are battle line.
Yeah.
Seraphon battle line. You just take what your minimum of 3 of those.
Look at this. We're corrupting the poor young man. That's what we're doing. And also, and this is really, really important, before we talk about the other
To break
stuff.
him down so we can build him back up.
like all new starters. So obviously that's pretty crazy. And we're going to talk about some of the responses to that tweet and the fact that Jack talked about that in a bit, because Jack himself, and also the Slanesh player that happened to, Slanesh Demons player, then in the next game played a Lord Croak list and defeated it.
Okay.
So, like, to let you know, that is a really interesting thing. Isn't it? I'd also like to do a big shout out and say this is our most popular show ever so far. There's 120 of you hanging out with us. So I just want to say thank you.
120 of you.
And we're here every Monday, so you guys are great.
You brought your fans, man.
Yeah, you brought your fans.
I told my mum's on it, my gran's on it, my dad's on another room. Yeah, everybody's here. Hi, mum.
So now, Nathan, Lord Croak, and his ability to cast 3 spells, and Jonathan as well. What can you tell Adam about that? Previously in AOS 1, what happened?
So you could only cast it once.
Right.
And it was still very good.
So what changed that he can now cast it? What was
the
the one line of
issue is-
text they've taken out that stopped
There
you?
is a rule, like a baseline rule, that any wizard can only attempt to cast one spell once each turn.
Right.
But
It was part of the
then
rule of one, right? It was one of
Exactly.
the rules of one. You could only
Exactly.
cast a spell once per turn. Attempt to cast
Yeah.
once per turn, right?
Exactly. And then they went in and said that War Scroll rules, like the rules for the actual War Scroll, take precedence over the core rules.
Right.
And Croak's War Scroll mentions that he can cast it several times. So,
And this is why Jonathan is feeling a little bit sad today.
I was going to say, you're not as chipper as you quite often sound when I'm watching the show.
So,
You
like,
sound a little despondent, Jonathan.
so Twitch chat, Nathan, Adam, Jonathan, do you think it's fine, or would you like to see that changed, and in so, which way?
I'm not saying like it's unbeatable, because it clearly is. As Micke Boll says in the chat as well, like the Swedish Death Wave was a really close game. But obviously, just do rule of one time. It will still be very powerful.
Does that break
especially
anything
if-
else, though?
Pardon me?
No.
Would that break anything else if you take away, if you put the rule of one on the spells
Chat-
back on? Does it
Chat can
bring
help
it?
us here, but
The rule of
I
one-
try to convince the guys in the WhatsApp groups that give me one scenario where the core rules take precedent over War Scroll rules would cause an issue. Give me one scenario and I'll be very happy. But I haven't found any.
So you're still sad. No,
It's idiotic, right?
Yeah, it is. No, I agree with you. The rule of one isn't there anymore, but it's part of the core rules. So there's nothing else that breaks the rule of one other than.
So nobody's found anything else that can do something quite like Lord Croak.
Well,
spell.
and most importantly,
He's got a
and-
specific thing in his thing that lets him cast the spell 3 times. I mean, that specific spell.
Only 3 times. Oh, because he can only cast.
He
what's
can
3
cast
spells,
4
right?
spells, but
He
he
has
can
4.
only cast that one 3 times.
the big for me,
Shame we can't
the
get it
big so there is a counter artifact that you can use in the game, and for top tier competitive gaming, just like Meermouse has said, that's his Deep King player almost beat that list as well. Nagash almost beat that list, and like we said, no Lord Croak list won 5 games. So just to be fair,
He
but
did
for the
lose the game, yeah.
but for the health of the game, and most importantly for people like Adam and people who are new, it doesn't really behove us to have something that's so destructive, so easy to do. Like, what for fun? For everyone else, just to have fun. For 2 people to play a random pickup game and just go, I'd like to have fun. I think that really detracts from that. For competitive gamers, they will find a way to try to beat it. I think that's fair.
Yeah.
Yeah, like,
But you have to build a list. Surely you have to build a list to be able to take that down.
yeah.
So I think there's.
But then can that list beat everything else? Great point.
Or you
Yeah.
could just
That's what
copy
I
the
mean.
list. I saw a very discouraging tweet as well, how one of the playtesters think that it's fine.
Don't worry, Jonathan. I promise I'm going to get to that, and I promise I'm going to fucking rip
okay.
him an arsehole. But right now, yeah, I'm not going to, because I don't want to. I want to talk about this for like funsies, and about that. I want to talk to that guy right there. Just about everything, really. So, hello everyone. I hope you enjoyed it. So, next up, do you want to hear about? So that's Croak, and that's what Croak does. Rule of 1 would help there.
Okay.
Okay. Next
Is
up,
it just rule of 1 that would fix that though?
Rule of
is it
1 would
just
fix that.
So that would just put. That's
I
an
mean,
easy thing.
Croak was
Rule of 1 applies to Croak.
Croak was there before doing the same thing.
Is he hipster?
In sorry.
Is he a bit hipster with his spell? I was doing it before.
He's been around a while.
Okay.
He is definitely a hipster toad. In AOS 1 when he was only could do it once. There was still loads of competitive builds with him just casting that spell once because he's got other
So
magic
even just
as
once,
well.
it's.
Yeah.
I mean, I was going to say that
Even
sounds
just
pretty
once is
bloody
pretty
savage.
sweet. Yeah.
So if you're going up against the Nurgle list, it's doing D6. So what is it?
D6, yeah.
3d6 inches,
Yeah.
and it's doing d6 mortal wounds to every single unit within. That's still massive.
And then he can pull comets out the sky and do
Yeah,
other stuff
yeah.
as well.
Yeah.
Shame he's not Stormcast, because he could have that Deus Arcanum, which.
Golden
Shame.
fanboy. Right, so next up.
Another
next
Comet
up
Strike.
is. Now there's a guy. I don't even know if he's a guy. There's a man, and he walks around with a hood up. Yeah? And his name is Donal. Yeah?
Right, yeah.
Right? Yeah? Some people say he's a villain, and I don't know if that's true. Yeah? But he wears a hood, and he's very sneaky. And he had a grot war boss. And that grot war boss, one time, did 126
wasn't
damage.
a war boss. It was a unit champion.
Sorry, it was a grot unit champion with a unit of
Other grots.
up to possibly 60.
Yeah, probably 60 other dudes just chilling out. Some of them had nets, some of them had spears.
And that chap, that singular grot unit champion, did 126 damage.
How?
192.
192!
Are you sure? It was 126, I thought.
It's a hooded war criminal. It's like we really need it's not a comp we need like a Geneva Convention.
It should have been 128 or something.
Donal for president.
He's
You're
in
right,
the
John.
show
Donal for
anyway.
president.
I'm not actually 100% sure. Now, I know that Trump wants to pull out of NATO, but I feel it's because of Donal and the grots.
Is that what it is?
Yeah, he just
seen this massive threat. And
Donald
he's like,
Trump.
Nah, Donald Trump.
Oh wait, thank you, Donal. It was 192.
192. Yeah. Against some
192.
ogres, I think.
Pardon me? No, it was against Ogors.
Yeah.
I think.
Against some ogres.
So there's an incredible picture, and if you want to follow Donal on Twitter, there's an incredible picture of a huge unit of Ogors lined up.
a unit of iron guts.
And a unit
Two
of iron
units
guts.
of them being attacked by one unit of grots.
Yeah.
And they fucking vanish into the mist. Yeah.
So it's just the leader guy. So like.
Yeah.
No, it was
For
the whole
Stormcast,
unit could also do that amount of damage.
But they didn't get turned to because he did it.
Because he did it all. But how? Okay, come on, how? Because this is bent, right? I mean, I assume it's bent.
Look at this, you're getting some defense now.
It's actually a really advanced combo.
Is it? Is this the?
This is super complicated, Adam. Now this is super complicated to do.
Okay.
It's really hard to do. What you
Be a
do?
really competitive player.
Yeah, get ready. This is he also killed. Thank you, Mike Bowl. He also killed 9 drones and 30 play bearers in one stroke.
The drones was great because the dude had buffed up the drones to have like plus 25 attacks.
Yeah.
And they were like, yeah, we're coming for you, grots. Then they turned up and then 4 grots attacked them and they were all dead.
Because these are the list. Because I listened to the show
grots.
on Wednesday or whenever it was.
Yeah.
So is this the list that had? Sorry, you go on. Go on.
So right, okay. So and there's some great points being had in the chat about as well. You don't double the double, you just double. So it shouldn't be damage taken. It should be 124. You don't damage the power off. So, but we'll talk about that later. So there's a grot war boss, a hooded villain. It's a hooded villain, right?
No.
It's not the hooded villain.
no,
Gutted.
it's just-
Anyway, there's a
Grot's the
grot.
little goblin. Guys,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
How dare you, sir?
Yeah,
Call it a goblin.
It's not a racial term.
Almost as racist as Croak, man.
Right.
Jesus was demons.
Right. And he does, Nathan. You walk him through it because this is your bag. Man.
So yeah, he's got an ability. His command ability is, I'm the boss now, stab him good. Basically, he hides behind a big rock, sticks his head out and says, oi, lads, go fuck them up. And then he hides back behind the rock and the lads go and fuck them up.
Okay.
So all the grots get dead excited. Every time they roll a 6 or more to wound, their attack does double the amount of damage.
Okay.
So you do it to them once, so
Yeah.
damage, but it's a 6 or more to wound. Then they have +2 to wound if they're in a big unit.
Okay.
So basically on 4s to wound, they get the double damage. But if you double a double, it becomes 4. So 2 doubled becomes 2. Double 2 becomes 4. 'Cause now you just keep putting the same command ability on.
And that's how you do it. You use the tactics of say the same thing 5 times.
Yeah. So 4 doubled becomes 8. 8
that's
doubled
really
becomes.
complicated.
So it's not. So some people are saying it's doubling the original thing, but it's basic mathematics. If you double something, it becomes twice as big as it was before.
Yeah.
And then you double that
becomes
same
its
thing.
characteristic, right?
Yeah. Well,
And then
no,
you
that
double
becomes
that.
what it is. So that's
yeah.
the double. That's the damage.
Yeah.
Now
I agree with you, Nathan.
you cast the you put the command ability onto them again. Their damage is now damage 2. Double your damage. Oh, okay. 4. Double your damage.
8.
8. Because
If you-
The thing is, I had a pump that I bought from the back of a magazine once to do something similar. It just didn't work. But this really does work.
Maybe somebody should do a little advert for it and put it in the back of White Dwarf.
If you wanted to
Somebody
fucking
Photoshop
destroy
that.
people,
I feel like John, I feel like that's your job, mate. Do a little,
right, GCP 129. We'll try and keep up. So basically, you can just use the same Grot War boss or different Grot War bosses to pick a unit and use your command points, which do the command abilities, and then they double the damage. This means some pretty terrifying things. Now, we did say before the game even released, Jonathan, when we did the shows, we said that probably command point stacking was going to be a real dangerous thing, and potentially.
Yeah.
Now, to be fair to Games Workshop, they did on several other units and several other characters say that this character can't do it several times.
Okay.
Right? They missed the Great Unclean One as an example, and the leader of the Scottish team, Liam, he
got a war scroll?
He had. He said something fairly similar, and with plague drones, where he would use a Great Unclean One's command ability to make 9 plague drones have +5 attacks on every melee weapon, and then send them off to destroy the Earth. So very similar. So how do you feel about that? Its tactical acumen and it being in the game.
It's the same thing as I said before. I don't like it, and I also think that sure they have gone in now and changed some of the units, but I mean just change it flat down. Rule of 1: don't spam.
Oh yeah.
Much
Yeah,
cleaner.
why-
You don't have to look for FAQs for specific characters in the game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You just know
I mean, the thing
this way
is,
to do it.
the curious thing is that they then went through all the war scrolls and they picked out certain ones and said, no, you can't stack that command ability. You can't stack that. So they took like the Warden King.
why
Thanks for
didn't
subscribing, Rob Ellis.
Why didn't they just do a blanket?
Yeah,
You can only
well,
do it once.
it's
Then? Is
yeah,
there something
why-
it would break, or is there somebody they would piss off that they don't want to piss off?
I don't think so because
Is there a
I mean, so
Mysterious
one
backer
of
that
the
they
things
don't
they
wanna-
took was the Warden King, dispossessed dude. He's got an ability where he can pick a unit within a certain range, 16 inches, and say, my whole army grudges you. We get +1 to wound against you. Mm-hmm. So you could stack that.
Yeah.
But no, he's been stopped from doing that, which is
Well, 'cause
weird
that would be
because
bent, mate.
yeah, a lot of the dispossessed army wounds on 3s anyway, so you wouldn't
Oh,
want
so
to
you could
stack
only add it once anyway, 'cause the
But
rule of-
anyway, they specifically FAQ'd that.
Right.
But
Sure.
you'd think, well, okay, if you're going to FAQ that, well, why didn't you FAQ the Grot War Boss? Because that one's such an obvious one. And then why FAQ them all? Why don't you just put a blanket thing across the whole thing, just saying you can't use the same command ability more than once on one unit? Yeah, he can go, I grudge you and I grudge you. That's cool.
Yeah.
But oi boys, go fuck him up, and oi you lads, go and fuck him up.
Yeah. Because you're going to
yeah.
get it's powerful, but they're not imbalanced. You're
Yeah.
going to get 5 units
Yeah.
smashing you up. Who are going to get a higher chance? Yeah. But a lot
The
of
response from the goblins when the other guy says "go fuck him up" should be, "Yeah, we know. The other guy just told us." That should be the response, right?
Well, once they've been told to go,
That's the
fuck
problem
him
with
up,
having. That's the problem with having too many managers, right? That's like literally the definition of too many cooks spoiling the broth.
Yeah, yeah.
They go fuck him up. It's like this is.
We know!
This is awkward. Yeah, this is awkward. So the easy answer and easy response, and Donaldinho's in the chat and watching, and there's loads of people watching, so thank you very much. What do you think the easy Twitch chat? I ask you guys and you guys. The obvious answer is just to not have command ability stack, right?
Yeah.
Just like you said.
The command ability you can use them multiple times, but you just have to pick different units.
Can
to
be using the
activate.
same unit.
Yeah. You can't just use the same.
What does Donald? What's Donald's actual thoughts? Do we know?
Yeah, no, so there's a Moon Clan chat, and the whole Moon Clan chat are pretty much like.
Are you the king of the Moon? Well, Donald is now.
No,
It's
we're all.
basically like make Grots great again.
You don't need to. It's fine.
But everybody in the chat is like, this is bullshit, and we're expecting the FAQ any moment.
Yeah.
And most
and want the FAQ.
And want the FAQ, and most of the lists we're making in the chat are not relying on command ability stacking because it's not something.
They're just doing it because they can, because
Well,
they know.
Well, most importantly, so Donald's
done it because this is the Six Nations, and you know you're going to showcase what it is basically, that it's that it's broken, and I think the Six Nations is a great place to do that because you're not actually playing against somebody else, you're playing against the whole country, so you can fuck that country up. It's a lot easier to justify if you're going to fuck up a whole country rather than just
absolutely. And again, for me, never is the player at fault. Like, if you can do a thing in the game, you should do it 100%. Yeah. And it's down to the game designers always to fix your ability to do that, because it really represents the sort of game that they want to do. Do they want you to be able to do 126 damage with a grot, or is it thematically thematically not correct that that a single grot unit champion can kill at the same time the Everchosen, Alariel, the goddess of life, the goddess of death, and Godrak? Yeah, all 4 champions of the different factions can just get one-shotted by the most heroic fucking grot in the world.
What do
they look like?
With a net. He's a dude with a net.
Who's a net? What am I looking for? Grot.
Yeah, and so what's really nice is obviously Donaldino's just said in the chat it's bullshit, and so big play to you, respect that a lot.
And he's happy he's done it, and I'm happy he's done it too. It's great.
It looks great.
I think that the ruling for double is correct as well.
Yeah.
Because if you don't double, you indicate that everything in the hero phase happens at the same time, right?
Yeah.
Which it doesn't. So yeah.
But
I like it.
So it's very, very nice of Games Workshop to let the Grots have at least 2 weeks of just utter terrifying nature. So that's. We're not finished yet. Go on, Adam. Yeah, go on. What's your question?
Do you think they're gonna? Because I know with 40k, they waited until LVO.
I never liked to guess them. I never like. I mean,
so they're going to wait another.
This was the most obvious problem going into the. This is what I meant about the analogy at the start of the show. Like, it was the most obvious problem going in. You know, like it was a very simple. You can't do X. Yeah. Instead of having to rewrite all the war scrolls, so they say that on their command ability, you just have a singular flat rule.
You can't do it.
Just saying you can't do it.
Yeah.
It's pretty easy.
Or even you could even have the rule, which is a lot of things have got of. Because you were saying it buffs it up so it becomes a 3 or a 4 or whatever. So on a roll of a 3, this thing is happening, right?
What you mean is so it only ever happens on a natural 6.
On a
as opposed to 6 pluses.
Yeah. I mean, it's still not ideal because it's still doubling a double, a double. Yeah,
still
so you couldn't fix it with that. You're right. It just needs to be a blanket over the top.
I mean,
one size fits all.
It's counterintuitive if one little grot can just dance through a unit, killing everybody.
It's fucking fun though. Come on.
Oh, yeah. Can you imagine being stood there and the guy playing against him? Who was he against? Who was he playing against? He did it.
He played against loads of people, and so.
But the first time it happened.
So everything I've heard about the event at the weekend, so this is Six Nations, that everyone had a cracking time.
Okay.
Yeah, because, and this is the thing about competitive players. Yeah, and this is what I respect massively about the Age of Sigmar community. Donald's in the chat right now saying this is bullshit. I don't want it to happen. Yeah, Jack with Croak tweeted directly out to Ben Johnson, the lead game design for. So he's not a rules writer, he's just like a project manager for Age of Sigmar, and said, this is shit, I don't want this to be in the game, on Twitter publicly. And massive shout out to Jack Armstrong for doing that. I respect that loads. So the competitive community don't want this either. No one wants to just turn up and smash teeth in. No. Yeah, they want to have to beat you. I don't want to just, like, it's embarrassing, right?
Yeah. It is. Yeah.
Those are my thoughts. Yeah. So next up is a young man called Darren.
Darren.
Yeah. Now Darren previously was running Croak. He's a bit of a Seraphon champ.
Okay.
Almost won the South Coast GT once with a Croak army, but can only cast it once. Now, Darren was talking about a list we talked about on the show, Nathan. Jonathan, we all talked about before, and I've always been a fan of, you can summon with free summoning now. This is another element to AOS 2. All summoning is free. I'm sure you know that.
Yep.
He was able to take these things called Engines of the Gods, which have a table where you roll 3d6. If you're near a slan, you roll 4d6, and you pick the 3 highest dice. If you roll 14 to 17, you can summon a unit to the table. Yeah? And he took 4 of them. And what he did was this. In his first game, he summoned 6 Ripperdactyls. Yeah? Does that sound good or bad?
I don't know what a Ripperdactyl does.
Oh my god, we'll get to that in a minute. Should we do that first?
It sounds
do the summoning.
Ripperdactyl.
So he summoned 6 Ripperdactyls, but that's not actually true. He didn't summon 6 Ripperdactyls. He summoned 6 units of 3 Ripperdactyls.
Ouch.
Yeah, they're 180 points per unit. He also summoned an Engine of the Gods and 20 Skinks, and that game ended there. He then, in game 2, summoned only 4 units of Ripperdactyls and an Engine of the Gods, and that game ended at turn 2. In game 3, he summoned in game 3 he summoned 8 units of Ripperdactyls, and that's game ended there. In game 4, this is over a couple of turns. In game 4, he summoned 7 Ripperdactyl units, so 7 units of 3,
21
so 21 Ripperdactyls, an Engine of the Gods, so he summoned another Engine of the Gods.
Which can then summon more.
Correct.
Right.
And 10 Skinks. Those 10 Skinks, I think he told me, or it might have been in game 5, where he summoned 6 Ripperdactyl units and 10 Skink units, 10 Skinks, and I think those 10 Skinks won him the game, like by holding an objective. So I've got some stats, and I didn't write it down because this was very last minute where he sent me the information. And if I'm missing any things in the chat, you guys can pick up and let me know. Let me just double check. Big shout out to Darren for being a babe and writing this out for me. Loads of people have been really nice about this. So, to give you some stats, he summoned 63 Ripper units over the course of 5 games. 4 Engines of the Gods, 63 units. 63 Rippers, sorry.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I think.
I was going to say, he's got a lot of money.
40 Skinks. And so basically, over the course of 5 games, he did 5,460 points extra, which is 1,000 points extra
Per
each game. Yeah. So he basically had a 3,000 point list. Hi, Darren. Good timing. What do you think of that, Adam?
But it seems unfair. I mean, it's okay if they're really weak, but I'm guessing by your reaction, they're not that weak.
Jonathan?
Well, they're 180 points worth for 3.
Yeah, okay.
So that's pretty good.
Okay,
if you think
so
of stuff that's worth 180 points.
I think that the Seraphon summoning is fine, but I think that the Russian doll, aka Engine of the Gods, whatever you want to call it, is not written for Age of Sigmar 2. I mean, the summoning that the Engine of the Gods do is out of phase. It's not in the same phase as the rest of the summoning. It doesn't generate points.
Yeah.
So I think, they seem to have a problem with the Engine of the Gods, like getting the rules right for it. I mean, they recently changed it, and I think that they should change it again.
Yeah. So
what does the rule actually say?
So you just Darren's also given me a quote that I want to talk about because this is really important, and it does affect some other units in the game as well, and specifically Nurgle as an army, and to do with summoning. Most importantly, Darren's told me this because he went 5 for 5, so he won 5 games with this list. You can move the units after you've summoned them, and that's where he says it's bonkers.
Right.
Because I suppose, and I haven't really had this from him, but I assume that means his opponents don't get really a chance to retaliate because he can summon them where he wants them, and then they can move. Now, Ripperdactyls in particular are a great unit because they can move so fast. They can move 14, 12 inches, 12, 14, 12.
14, I think.
So
Maybe.
Summoning, you can't put them within 9.
So
but you can move 14 anyway.
Perfect. And you can also summon them within 12 inches of the Engine of the Gods. So realistically, they're a 26-inch move plus a charge. That's where they get really, really strong. Teleport 2 engines and summon, right? Yeah, so now where this becomes really massive is what Ripperdactyls do.
Right.
Okay. Currently, War Scrolls, as we said, current War Scrolls overwrite the core rules. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, there's a big argument and a row about exactly what this means, but the AOS Six Nations team didn't allow this. But what they do is when a unit of 3 Ripperdactyls do, they charge. The Skinks have got an attack each, so it's like 5s and 5s. And then you've got 3 claw attacks, I think it is, and they 3 attacks each, so a unit of 3 will do 9 attacks. I think those are 3s and 3s, and there's no rend, it does 1 damage. And then you've got Beak Attack. Beak Attack hits on 4s, and they've got 1 each. And they wound on 3s, no rend, 1 damage. So you've got 3 of them. Now there's a couple of things to change about that. Number 1, if they're near a bloat toad, or within 3 inches of a unit that's near a bloat toad, they get 3 beak attacks each. And those beak attacks, every time they successfully hit, so that's 9 attacks hitting on 4s, every time they successfully hit, they generate a new hit. Which is cool. And it was FAQ'd that that's where it stops.
Right.
Yeah. And I'm pretty certain the intent is that's where it's meant to stop now. There is some conversation, and almost at one point this weekend it was allowed that you could continue to generate more hits until you ran out of dice.
Right.
Where it becomes really scary is those Ripperdactyls, if they've charged, can say that they're swooping. This has no in-game effect other than you say swooping and do this. Yeah.
Or spooping if they
yeah, with this. And you have to say to your opponent, assume I'm always swooping. Yeah. And when you swoop, you get to hit on 4s and re-roll, and you get to wound on 3s and re-roll.
Okay, right. I think I know where this is going.
Okay.
Because you generate extra hits
Every time
on a successful hit.
Yeah.
So you can... Does it say you re-roll failed, or do you can just re-roll? Is this where you're going with it?
What?
Does it say re-roll failed or re-roll?
Re-roll failed.
So you just
Re-roll
get
failed.
loads.
Oh, okay. I thought it was re-roll full
So
stop.
the maths is maths is you do about 20 odd wounds, like from a unit of 3.
Right.
And don't forget that's a free unit of 3.
Yeah. And you've summoned 6 of them.
Because summoning something like I love Croxigore personally. I think they're fucking kick ass.
Oh,
yeah.
heard you say that.
But if you could summon 3 Croxigore, I think people would be like, whatever. Like that's.
Look at the crocodiles with the big hammers.
I don't think anyone would mind too much. Or Saurus Cav. If you could summon a unit of Saurus Cav, everyone would be like, fucking whoop-de-doo, mate. Like, whatever. Like, did you have to paint them? They look ridiculous. Jonathan, what do you think about the summoning? Thanks for following us, Rick.
Well, first off, the Rippers, I think that's interesting. Not really, though. But what's interesting is that they have a rule that attacks that generates new attacks will they only do it once. And then they have the rule that says War Scroll abilities take precedent over core rules, which makes that rule unnecessary.
Yeah.
Because there's no mechanic in the game like baseline that generates new attacks for you. So it's clear, not thought through. And I think like when we go through like the current issues, I think it's very clear that nobody looked at the Seraphon part from the new Allegiance abilities and then dropped it there. They didn't look at the war skills at all for.
But I couldn't stop talking about it before I talked about it before, Jonathan, in the last edition, right? I was like, I would sometimes use it to summon my unit of skink handlers because it's quite a snazzy way of doing it and not having to do a spell. So it was quite cool. So yeah, but effectively free summoning and Nurgle, and the reason it's important, the movement, and again I want to express that it's Darren's play experience, and he's told me to tell you guys this. It was the movement after summoning that he felt was the game-changing element, not the summoning itself. So we could talk back and forth about how we feel about summoning, but it's the movement phase, the movement after summoning. Now Maggotkin can also do it, and I think some other armies can also do it as well. So you're able to drop a unit down, usually outside of 9, that's how most summoning works, but then also move. And that's where it gets really difficult to deal with.
I think that's sure that's really bent. But I think, as you described Darren's games, like, okay, let's play a game at 2,000. Okay, I bring 3,000 because I'm going to one drop and I'm going to deploy 3,000 points. I mean, that's an issue as well. It's not only that they can move. It's the fact that you get to play with 1,000 points more from the start.
But they're not the only armies that can do it. And like they've said, and I don't know if this is true, they said that other things have been pointed accordingly, right? So a lot of things had a points reduction. They just want more models on the table, surely. So that's why they've done it that way, like, initially at least.
If you can't reduce, if you reduce a Carriage and Overlord's army by 1,000 points,
Yeah.
like it doesn't, dropping an Iron Guts unit by 20 points doesn't have the same effect as being able to put 1,000 points.
No, of course. No. But the thing that can summon, didn't they go up, or did? Because they've said that's what's happened, but is that not happened?
No.
I don't know. Like Alariel, instead of like dropping her points, they just allowed her to summon something for free,
Like
right?
the general summoning rule now is like every faction has a different circumstance to summon under. And it's not like a specific model. Well, Seraphon has a specific model, but overall, it's a thing that you need to do in the game
Right.
to collect those points, which I like. I like that a lot as a function. But so it's kind of hard. I mean, sure, you could flatline increase all the whole model range in a faction, but then you also like. What did you say? What's the förstå? Like what's the word? Oh, my English is failing me now. But if you increase the models in a whole faction, you kind of indicate that the player will only be playing that faction. They won't be taken into, let's say, a Grand Alliance army for people who likes that. So I don't know. I think that the most easy way to do it is like look at the allegiance ability and how it works and how you generate the points, which I think a lot of them is fine. It's great actually, and I think Seraphon is fine as well. However, I think that the Engine of the Gods is the one who's causing the issue at the moment, or like the issue that we know of. There's probably some more that haven't been discovered yet, but yeah.
But it's a new.
Go on, that's fine. Go for it.
It's a new edition.
Yeah.
They've done some big sweeping changes, and are we basically
Moon Tyrannid. Thanks. Moon Tyrannid's just donated $110. Thanks to Moon Tyrannid, you babe.
$110?
No, just $10.
Quattro.
But 10 Quattro is still better than no Quattro, so
Nice.
thank you. Go on.
So it's a new edition. Some things are bent as all buggery. There's an FAQ which hopefully will fix, well, which in theory is going to fix a lot of problems.
What's the problem?
What's the problem?
It's a great question.
Is it,
I
are we
suppose so.
hoping this is just a temporary issue?
Oh, absolutely. Although, to refer back to the analogy at the start, is these were really obvious C's. Like,
But how many other things have they not allowed through that would have been really obvious as well? Is this just that they've missed a few? And there was tons of other things that they've...
Well, again,
So-
yeah, absolutely, maybe, but these are like pretty obvious.
Yeah.
These are not, and also things like Croak. If we go back to Croak, that was nerfed on purpose. So nerfed means to reduce something's ability.
Okay.
They were like dropped. It was dropped its ability to cast a spell 3 times because it was so powerful, because it was so unengaging, because it was so over the top. There seems to be no reason to return it when then the playing field is no different.
Yeah, so Croak. The Croak example was specifically mentioned in the FAQs in AOS 1, and the Ripperdactyls were specifically mentioned in the Rules of 1, I think, in the first handbook, and in AOS 1. So they're obviously things that have been highlighted, and they should be, when you're going through the rules, you'd think you'd look at the old set of rules.
You look at the mistakes you've
and you'd
corrected
say, well,
and go from there.
These things are obviously issues. What shall we do?
Yeah.
And then, we'll ramp it right up back up to 100 and see what happens.
Do you reckon they've done,
I don't
like, we've all
know
done it, I think,
why.
where you go and edit an earlier version of a document and you go, oh no, I'm done, just throw it out, let's see what shit comes out and then let's fix them. Nobody will care about it.
And Jonathan, please jump in if you've got something to say. I think a good strategy, realistically, which it could be something that they're doing, and I hate to second guess them, Games Workshop this is, on purpose, because really it doesn't do anything for anyone. We're just talking about what could be. It could be, though, and then I go on to do it, what a twat. It could be that they intentionally are releasing it as is, so that they can fix a bunch of the problems, and then be seen to be responding to the community. But when we get onto some of the responses that we've seen from the community team, and also some other people later, we'll see that maybe that isn't necessarily their direct intent straight away. However, and again, we basically do this show based on a singular premise: never attribute to malice what you can attribute to stupidity. And I think the rules guys are super overworked, so it would make sense that you would see some of these cracks come through. So but it's really about how they respond to it, and if they do fix
I
it.
think that as a guy who works with projects, or mostly the outcome of projects, like on a daily basis, it smells of a deadline. And if you have a tight deadline, do you really go back and look at?
Yeah, I agree.
You should do it, but do you really go back and look at all the old war scrolls, or do you just focus on the?
So you think they've rushed it and they've got it out the door, and then they've gone, fuck it, just sell it as it is, and then we'll fix the problems afterwards because we ain't got time.
But at the end of the day, it's conjecture. Yes. It could be anything.
Yeah.
But
so Nathan's right.
It's just what it is at the moment is bullshit, and really it shouldn't be how it is. I mean, because like I say, the examples are there in the initial set of rules that you would think if you're going to build something off of what you had, you'd look at what you've got.
Start where you left off, rather than going right back to the start and
Croak
making all the same mistakes again.
Specifically says you can't use the war scroll. It's mentioned in the FAQ. Why take it and say, no, that was a bad idea? Why did we change it in the first place? I don't understand that. The Ripidactyls, the never-ending attacks. Why did we stop that in the first place?
So
I think that's a terrible idea. They should have 1 million attacks. What? Where from?
So I mean,
go on.
So can I go through my list, because I feel
no, we're not there yet. We're not there yet. We are 100% going. Yeah.
Then we should talk about the things that's wrong with the game at the moment.
No, we are, because what we're doing conversationally is we're setting up the problem to then start to talk about the solution, right? Yeah. And by the way, everyone listening, if you like, this isn't just going to be a dumping show. And thank you everyone for listening. The idea is just for us to honestly have a conversation about how we feel about what we've seen so far, and how, as a community, we can start to move forward and progress so that we all have more fun games, and that most importantly, so no one's ever shouting at each other. The only place we should be shouting is at the game devs, and say we'd like a better game that we can have more fun with.
We should be shouting wow lots.
Banging drums, just standing outside of Games Workshop.
Right, exactly. So that's where we're going, because we're not finished with some of the other really cool stuff from Six Nations, and we should get to that, right? And also, just to quickly touch on the Croak thing, and Nathan's excellent talking about with Croak, is the analogy of, should I go and touch the hot stove? I'll do that, oh, it's hot, and then going, oh, I forgot that stove's hot. I wonder if I should touch it, and then touching it again. That's what.
So it's Games Workshop doing the thing.
Second time round, I'm going to use my face to
I think if you look past the deadlines and stuff, the only thing that makes me question somebody's competence is the actual FAQ where they mention Croak by name and say that it's fine.
Yeah,
that's where I start to question, like, how do you play this game? Do you know what
Croak did nothing wrong.
Yeah. So let's move on to Andy Hughes. Yeah.
Not Adam.
No. So Andy Hughes, not Adam Hughes. Andy Hughes went 5 for 5 this weekend, so he won 5 games.
Good for him.
Yeah. Congratulations to him a lot. And he won a list that I feel like we definitely have talked about a lot, and we're big fans of the show, the Dreadwood Wargrove. You know, I've been banging on about this and been very excited about it. He went 5 for 5, and he was nice enough to WhatsApp me to talk about his experience with using it at the weekend. Now, he killed 2 Croak lists.
What?
Yeah?
Yeah, go on.
Right? 2 destruction lists and a Vanguard wing. Now, importantly, to talk about when he played one of the destruction players with the Croak list, I'm just going to quickly get my stats up, because it was very nice of him to message me. So, Andy, if you're listening, thank you. And if you're not, you're a babe. I said to him, is there any way to beat your list? Yeah? Because I said that's going to be an important thing that people are going to want to know about. And he said, Jonathan Etland has sent me a photo, and it is
lovely. Go on, man.
Slow me down. Okay, thank you. It is. I said, is there any way that you can beat it? Would you say there's a counter? And my first thought was, what about bodies on the board? Yeah, because bodies on the board would be really important. It'd be a big deal. Because he's got quite an elite army. A Dreadwood Wargrove is quite an elite army. And he said, possibly, but even then it destroys all heroes, so you're fighting battle line units with your Prime, Alariel, Dryker, and 6 Bowhunters. In my game against England, I killed 3 Thunder Tusks and 45 Uruks turn 1, so it can kill mobs too. So, so there is somewhere to get the Six Nations list.
What is a Dreadwood Wargrove?
Basically, it's a Sylvaneth list that just can...
And importantly, it goes first.
Yeah, so it's a 1-drop, so
right.
it can...
Oh, so the Dreadwood Wargrove is a battalion, battalion.
Yeah.
Right.
So, and it can pop up a load of pretty much really beat stick models in your face, like 3 inches away almost, turn 1, and then they can just
not without 9.
Yeah, no,
anyway.
Forget all of that shit. And so then they can offload all their spells into you and then climb into you and beat the fuck
climb into you. Just grow from the inside out.
Basically, you get fucked up.
So, but also he also high diagnosis. He was using the Celestant Prime as well, and that's important to point out. So an Alariel can summon a free unit as well with a command point, which is pretty powerful. He did, I think, in one of the games, someone didn't know.
I think you need a command point. I think you should just.
Yeah, you need a command point. But you start turn 1.
Well,
Can you sack that then?
No, you can only do it the one time.
Oh, because it says you can only do one
Yeah.
once per battle. Oh, well, of course, because that would be broken.
No, but you get the command point because you're taking a Dreadwood anyway.
Well, you get a command point anyway, don't you? So.
And apparently the power comes from the AoE Dryker damage. So Dryker has got kind of a shooting attack that does AoE mortal wounds, a bit like Croak. And also the Prime, as we discussed before on the show, also does AoE mortal wound damage.
Yeah.
Yeah,
like
so
him.
that's some of it. Daz Moore, awesome to meet you at Warhammer World on Friday. Oh, Daz, I did meet Daz. He's a babe. Thanks, Daz. And also thanks everyone watching. So, but he went 5 for 5, and one game someone didn't quite know how to deploy against him, a Stormcast army. I think I'm getting this right. So he just went to all of the objectives because it's called, that mission is called
the Valor, better part of Valor.
The better part of Valor. That's what the mission is called. There are 6 objectives, and you can burn all of them. So that means you destroy it and you get D3
If you control it, you can burn it.
Right. And you
if you control all of them, you burn them, you get points. There's
Your
no
enemy
way
can't
your
get-
opponent can get any points because there's nothing left to burn.
You snooze, you lose.
Yeah, and he destroyed, and so there was, I think the Stormcast player didn't know how to deploy against it, so he just didn't, and then he just went to all the objectives and burnt them all.
Oh.
Now, can I just quote someone in one of the WhatsApp groups, which I thought was glorious? He said, and I thought this was really funny, is like, what's really fun is you should burn 5 and then watch your opponent really sweat over the last one. And I was like, you pick wings off flies as a child, you fucking sadist.
That guy's
just park all your dudes around it. Just like, not even
not
near
around it, just a little bit away. Go on then, go get it. Come on.
Oh, that was one of the... that's fucking evil, right?
Set like an ambush, but a really obvious one. Like, come on then.
Moon Tyrannid. Lol, that's evil. I like that dude.
Yeah. So I thought that was particularly funny when I read that. So yeah, Andy, I think most of his games, if not all of his games, didn't go past turn 2. And as said, it's very difficult, and this is the point to make, it's very difficult to comp that. Yeah, because the summoning, we've talked about it and the problem. We've talked about the spells, and that's the problem. We've talked about command ability stacking and where that's the problem. But with Andy's list in particular, it's just a battalion list. But what is important about Andy's list, I assume, now this could be wrong, and thankfully Andy's here in the chat to tell me, the ability to pretty much decide if he goes first or second, because it's a 2-drop army, means that is a huge advantage. That's where I imagine the list is quite strong and powerful, in that he can decide to who goes first. Because in this, so I imagine that's really...
Because the first turn is really pivotal, who has that.
Especially if you can wipe your opponent.
If you do the roll-off, if you do the roll-off, or if you don't do the roll-off, I think that like tournament-winning Silverlet's list is very dependent on however you have a roll-off or not.
If you did a roll-off. Oh, so... But you don't do a roll-off of the first turn?
No, so the first turn is whoever finishes deploying first gets to go first.
Yeah.
So well, then you would think you could deploy then to take it on, but obviously...
I mean, he took out 45 Oryx and 3 Thunder Tusk in one turn. Fucking flip me sideways.
So
I don't know what I could
just
put...
a normal list then? There's no command point stacking, there's nothing...
No.
Bent about it. It's just...
Well, it's pretty bent, but
I mean,
there's nothing new about it that's bent, with the exception of they changed Spite Revenants to Battle Line for Sylvaneth in the new General's Handbook, which is the big bonus. And it's the ability to... And it's the fact that most of the time, the first turn is going to be a big deal.
Which is the same as it always was.
Jonathan, have you noticed how I've constructed this list so as to fluidly move into your list? Like, I feel like... can I just say thanks to the Six Nations teams for constructing a really good way of me having this conversation. It's really nice of them. They've done really, really well. You guys are brilliant. After turn 1, it only needs command points to reroll charges. There you go. That's from Andy. So that's pretty cool. And apparently other good things to mention from this weekend are Michael Brow was the guy with the Slanesh army that took the 104 mortal wounds but then tabled a croak list. Congratulations. He took one, died, lost, but next game tabled a croak list with a Slanesh army, so big shout. Mick Wendell's Stormcast Eternals army list was apparently real solid.
Stormcast!
Yeah. and also Destruction, the Battlesheet Magma Dragons list, so Team Wales, their Magma Dragons army, Tom won all of his games with Destruction.
Yeah.
So big shout out to Tom. Massive.
2 Magma Dragons and a load of fucking big beasts.
Absolutely.
Respect to that guy. Magma Dragons apparently quite good.
Yes.
I think that we need to have the role of on Bobo. Because I like to see Andy's face when he loses. It's me and Graham, we had Andy on our team for Blood Tie, Mark's event down in London. And we looked at Andy every time he lost because he wasn't allowed to play a good list. As a captain, I made sure that we had the worst list. And the face on Andy when he's trying to smile, but you know that he's filled with agony. It's a beautiful thing. Me and Graham really like that. So
good. All right. So big shout out to everyone on the weekend. It sounded like a great event. It sounded like it was really well run as well, which is ace. And it also sounds like we've learned loads of valuable lessons. So well done to everyone taking those tools to deal with those lessons. Yeah. Go on.
It just feels a bit.
There was also one more problem. Sorry, this is important. So there is a scenario, and it's one of the scenarios where it requires a character who's a wizard or a character with an artifact power to control the objective.
Okay.
Right? Now, the way that you hold the objective is that you hold the objective within 3 inches of it, and the first character to do so, the first wizard to do so, holds that objective.
Okay.
Holds the objective, ace, we've done it, we've nailed it. Now, the only way to get them off that objective is for your wizard or character with artifact power to kill them so you can claim the objective. Mm-hmm. What would you do, for instance, Adam, if there was one wizard on an objective that was quite soft and you had lots of shooting? Yeah. Would you shoot it and then run over with your wizard after?
Sure, that sounds like it makes sense.
That makes sense. What if I was to tell you that you couldn't do that because the dead wizard still has the objective?
Oh, because the way it's worded, technically, the first one to get it holds it forever for the rest of time.
That's every time somebody say, well, technically.
I mean, that's a good point.
Right? Yeah. That's like signs of bad stuff is coming. Mm. Well, technically. Then we know they're full of bullshit. Not you now. This time, though.
Yeah. So that scenario, that scenario itself obviously needs looking at. In that, it just needs a quick rule change that just says.
Well, if you read the rules on the scenario, I don't think it needs changing.
Okay.
So it says the normal rules for controlling an objective are not used in this battle. Mm-hmm. So forget about if you leave
the core rules.
Control it. Yeah. Forget about that. Instead, a player controls an objective if a friendly hero with an artifact of power or a friendly wizard is within 3 inches of the objective at the end of any type of move, apart from a retreat move. So you cannot retreat onto it. Yeah.
I think
the player loses control of the objective if the hero or wizard finishes a subsequent move more than 3 inches from the objective. Oops.
But they can't finish a subsequent move if they're dead. So technically, using that technically, as rules is written, they haven't moved. So even if they're dead, it doesn't say if they die.
If the hero or
we all know what it means.
Model that is.
Yeah, we know the intent. This is that stupid intent versus.
Yeah, I guess maybe it does need looking at then. Yeah, because it doesn't say if
or slain.
They have to finish a move away from it. So if they don't finish the move away from it, then
the thing is, you still finish a move even if you move a model 0 inches.
I suppose if you move a model off the board when it dies, that's a movement.
I mean, Retisanti's got a good point. If that fella's dead, he's a ghost, and it's absolutely fine for using your Nighthaunt to hold objectives. So currently, ghosts can hold objectives, but realistically, I think that needs to be.
I think that you're only allowed to be a ghost if Nagash says it's okay. Otherwise,
That's true. That's true.
Well, you become a Stormcast then.
I think I wouldn't want to win a game that way. And I don't think that's the right way to go about winning that game. I think that's fairly clear.
That all you really needed was an announcer guy saying, by the way, before we all start playing this match, here's what happens.
But it might not have come up, and the TO might have to decide after the fact, and that's why we highlight these things so everyone knows. Yeah, so that's something that needs changes.
So
and
did it say that you have to end the move to
Yeah.
hold it?
So
even if you stand still, you've made the move. In the same way, if you run, but you roll the dice and you add the character.
yeah, that's true. If you're dead, you can't make a move, so therefore you can't control it.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's true.
You can't not control it ever.
So
Yeah.
England, you can
If
send
you're
those gold medals to the Swedish players.
Yeah. So if you
Did it affect any outcomes?
yeah,
It did?
because it was a Sweden-England game. They did it. So basically, if you're dead, you cannot finish a move.
Right, yeah.
So
England
therefore,
might
you
have
cannot
capped anyways.
control the objective.
Oh, so it did actually make a difference. I thought it was
It might have made a difference.
Yeah.
Right, okay.
But realistically, what's good is to have an honest conversation about it and say the only way to play that, in my opinion, is if the character's dead, they stop controlling it. That makes the most sense.
Well, that's what it says in the rules.
And that's what it says in the rules.
But it says to ignore the rules.
No, well, that's what it says in the rules for the scenario.
But we can leave the conversation to the row, because what's really cool is if a TO decides that whichever way they want to play it, then everyone knows ahead of time.
Yes.
Yeah, and hopefully Games Workshop get to it, and they have that conversation with each other, and they go, oh, that needs a quick fix, and we'll sort that out. Again, another thing we've highlighted that needs some attention, right? So worth having.
I bet they wish you highlighted it a week before.
Well, yeah, but
Well, that's it. I mean, this Six Nations was very special. New rule systems. I would not want to be in Jon's shoes. Like all the questions that he had to go through. It was a lot. So, and like the specific details like this, can be missed. Obviously, in this case, you didn't just read the rules.
yeah.
But hey.
Well, I mean, I've just read them, and I thought until you highlighted the fact that you need to be alive to move. That's true. So yeah.
Even if you move 0 inches,
you've still got to be alive to move. Yeah, because you can only control it if you're finishing your move within 3.
Yeah.
But if you decide not to move, you're not performing a move?
Well,
But you're still finishing your move.
Yeah, it's a silly... Yeah.
You're still finishing your move.
They'll fix it.
Even if
It'll
you didn't
be-
move, you're still finishing the move.
It's like Camelot.
in that area.
It is a silly place. Yeah. Yeah.
It's like
Yeah.
Planet Earth.
So congratulations again to England. Sounds like an amazingly interesting event. People must have just been, like in the early days of Age of Sigmar, just been like, what can you do? It's like this. It's like, wow, that seems silly. And we saw a bit of that actually on Twitter, which is really interesting. If some of you guys aren't on Twitter or don't keep track or don't care, specifically what we saw, which I thought was great, was Jack Armstrong tweeted out, I've just done this many mortal wounds. I think this is ridiculous. Can we please have a sort of this? Yeah. And we would hope something like that would be true. Yeah. And this is going to lead on to the conversation about comp in a minute. We're going to talk to Jonathan about.
You need to explain to me what comp is. 'cause
Exactly.
You keep saying that.
Yeah, and Jonathan's going to explain it, 'cause apparently I've got no idea. Okay. Now, when Jack did that, which I thought was really fair, and I thought it was really cool of him to say, I don't want this to be in the game, this is a bit OTT, which is ace. He had some responses, right? And this is where it gets a little bit interesting. Now, the first thing I've got to say is I think anyone who's playtesting the game is doing it for free. It's probably not getting any or models or anything. Might be getting a Balto maybe or something, but they're not doing much and they're doing it in their free time. And I assume they're doing it because they really love people. So I've got no problems with playtesters, because eventually all they can do is give feedback, and whether or not that's listened to, that's fine. But some community leaders have made some, I think, poor responses to this, because this is what the whole show about. This whole show that we're doing is about our response to the weekend. And I think we've been okay about it, so far. Well, obviously if you disagree, tweet me and call me a prick. But that's fine. However, However, let me just come and get this up. We had 2 responses, and one was from a young man called Ben Curry. Now, Ben Curry,
him.
You know him.
I've heard of him.
You've heard of him. Have you listened to his show?
I have.
And what did you think?
I think he's... So first time I heard it, I turned it off because I didn't really get the whole tone and stuff. And then I got convinced to listen to it again, and actually, I quite liked it. I thought his show was quite good, but I think the show I was listening to is out of date. And I don't think he's done... He hasn't done one for ages,
No,
right?
during 8th edition, I used to listen to them. He used to do a daily show, and I used to enjoy listening
Fantasy,
to them on my way to
yeah.
work and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So the ones he's put out is good.
Pardon me?
I think the ones that he's put out is good.
Yeah.
There we go.
It's just the ones where he's got Mark Wildman in there.
They're the worst.
Yeah.
The one with Mark Wildman is just the worst. That's my issue. So his response to Croak doing 105 mortal wounds in the magic phase was, and maybe he's deleted it, I don't know if he has, or maybe he's blocked me on Twitter, was effectively, Jack, just don't take it. What do you think of that, Adam, as a response? As a new fella.
I think he's not representing Games Workshop when he says that. Because he doesn't work for Games Workshop, does he?
No, but he is innately linked with Games Workshop.
Is he a playtester?
One of his closest friends is Ben Johnson, the lead designer of Age of Sigmar.
Okay, so he feels defensive of Games Workshop. So he's probably saying what the immediate reaction from Games Workshop would be from any person of, well, just don't take that thing. But that's just wrong. You know, it's giving a kid access to a whole bunch of shotguns, and he goes to shoot somebody. He's like, well, you shouldn't have just picked up the gun. No, you shouldn't have let the kid have the gun. You know what I mean? It's the responsibility of the person who's let them do the thing.
Yes.
I mean, to a point, obviously, but...
Are you calling Jack Armstrong a kid with a shotgun?
Yeah, because he's been given a shotgun.
Jack Armstrong is a kid with a shotgun.
He's admitted it. He's
I haven't
openly...
seen Jack without his wheelchair at a tournament ever.
Without his what?
His wheelchair.
Wheelchair.
That's Jonathan's way of describing that sometimes he thinks that people take lists that carry them. Although Jack, I think, is an excellent player. Yeah. But
Because
Jack
there
is
are
not
people
scared
with
of taking
wheelchairs
the shotguns.
And they seem to end
Yeah.
up fucked up.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
He's actually scared of not taking the shotgun.
I mean, there's a skill in it, right? Finding these lists that people have overlooked, people being rules writers, that they've overlooked.
I mean, Vanguard Wing was there for 7 months. Wasn't really overlooked. We all knew. And you aren't 100% what that is, but that's fine.
It's Stormcast, of course I know what it is.
So let's never attack the person.
No.
Yeah, and let's attack the conversation of his reason, his reasoning, right? And Ben's reasoning was, don't take the thing, which as a competitive player is now there's a variety of words I'd like to use, but I think fairly is short-sighted, silly, flies in the face of everything he's ever done, so incredibly hypocritical, and just poor, because he had no reason to make a comment. He had no reason to say. He could have said something along the lines of, that seems quite strong, maybe we should have a look at it, or do you think there's a hard counter? Like, for instance, when I asked Andy about his Dreadwood Wargrove list, I said, Andy, is there a counter? How could I beat you? And he was like, I don't think you can. Great point too. And all the Croak lists didn't win 4 out of 5 games. So it was a really good conversation he could have. But shutting down the conversation with, just don't take it, is ridiculous in a competitive environment, in my opinion.
I think there should be another sentence after that, like, it will be FAQ the errata in the next upcoming errata.
Well, he doesn't work for Games Workshop. You need to look at it as face value, I would say, just as a bit of an outsider and somebody who's fairly new to it. I know who Ben Curry is. He doesn't work for Games Workshop, so he can say what the fuck he wants.
He can, but instead he sold his integrity for some plastic. So that's my thought.
So, but he's basically so Jack's taken to Twitter and said, by the way, guys, this is bent as fuck. I've just smashed the shit out of some guys in this great big tournament. Whoop-de-doo. You might want to have a look at it.
Yeah.
And Ben turned around and said, well, just don't take the fucking thing. That's not a reasonable answer from somebody who is also a competitive player.
Well, yeah, it's not
because you would take it if you'd seen the list.
Yeah, it's not
as a competitive player.
Yeah. It's not a reasoned answer at all.
No, it's not. It's not.
There's no reason in it. It's just flippant. So.
Tis flippant. and some shoulder shrugs. So, and then the following response was from a young man called Martin Morin. Martin Morin, someone put a tweet up and said, "Look at all of these responses to." Don't worry. Look at all these responses. This grot situation is ridiculous. And his response was, if you can't beat 2 5 wound 4 up save, 4 wound 5 up save characters, maybe the problem is your fault. Yeah. So blaming the players that lost to the 126 damage grots. As opposed to the mechanic. Now, he does directly work for the company and is on the TV for Warhammer Live and is a part of the community team.
He's that Martin. Right.
And is directly blaming players for what I think most of us would describe as poor game design. And we're saying that those tweets were being taken out of context, which is incredibly ironic because once he tried to give me a disciplinary when I worked for Games Workshop, and him directly, for my tweets, and he said that none of my tweets could ever be taken out of context.
Yeah.
He then was defending other people's tweets as being taken out of context, which I thought was a lovely piece of irony. But what we'll do is we'll take my personal grudge, we'll put that to the side, because the fact that I think he's a moron has got nothing to do with this, all right, we'll just remove that from the conversation because it doesn't help anybody. What do you think about that as a response? Do you think, and question to everyone in the chat, do you think that that's fair, or do you think that the game design really needs to be looked at more than the people and how they play against it?
No, I think that there was a bit of I don't think it was serious at all.
Yeah, again, I think it was a flippant answer, really. He was just not very considered.
But can you...
No, exactly. I think he forgot about his position. Because, his workshop at the moment is really, which is good, it's really involved with the community. And a lot of the people who work at Game Workshop know the players at the tournament scene. I think Donald and Martin know each other as well. So I just think it was a bit of, not bands, but...
a bit of gamesmanship, really, yeah. Because...
Yeah, but then you forget that you have a bunch, I don't know how many followers you have, but a lot, I would imagine. Yeah. And they don't know you the way that Donald does. They know you as Games Workshop. I mean, I don't think anybody should be. What's the word?
Well, I think I think insulting the player base.
I completely agree.
I think insulting the player base and saying you don't know how to play or this is easy to defeat is a little bit because what you could do and put that place going, I don't think that's overly challenging. These are ways in which I would defeat it, and then list them. Make a bunch of ideas. Support the game in that way. Have an understanding. If there's some secret that he knows that every other competitive Age of Sigmar doesn't agree with, thinks, then including the person playing with the list, cite it.
Is that? Have you seen Starship Troopers?
Yes, I love that film.
Of course, everybody. You know, there's that scene where he's teaching people to throw knives.
Yeah.
And he's like, the enemy can't shoot the gun if you've disabled his hand. So that's what he's trying to say, right? But if he'd have put it up in a funny way, but maybe it just didn't come across. Maybe he was trying to be funny, and it didn't come across right. It's been taken out of context, and
but that's
and
impossible,
it's
by the way.
completely his fault. That is
you need to tweet without it being possible.
It's completely his fault. He should know better because he is representing Games Workshop, and he's made a mistake.
So far from Games Workshop, we haven't seen anything come through as to an FAQ and as how to deal with this. And some of it might be a lot of us with pitchforks and fires just being like, oh no, everything's terrible. But I think it's not necessarily terrible. I think that there's just loads of challenges. And Games Workshop obviously can fix that, and we'd like them to. I think we're all agreeing with that. But Jonathan and me and a bunch of other people have had conversations before this weekend occurred. And one of the things is that there's the Bravery British Open coming up in the next few weeks, which is a big Age of Sigmar singles competitive event. Now, if we were to play Age of Sigmar out of the book as it is now, it's only going to go the way of the weekend. Although some of those lists might be better, as Nathan said, in a team tournament as opposed to a singles event, right? So that might be fair. Yeah. But Jonathan has come up with a bunch of stuff for comp. And the reason we're going to talk about it is because Games Workshop might not address some of these issues. And the reason Jonathan wants to talk about this comp, and I don't want to talk for him, but I assume, is because what he'd like is everyone in the world to have a more enjoyable competitive event, and also potentially a more enjoyable competitive pickup game. So we've seen with 40k and their suggested tournament rules. By the way, on the podcast, if you're listening, I'm doing
funny quotes.
Funny quotes. Yeah, funny quotes. They do suggested. And what this means, very interestingly, is that they obviously have cited that there is a difference between tournament games and pick-up games. Yeah. But most people use those tournament rules for their pick-up games, so they're more fair. That's the idea.
Yeah.
So, Jonathan, do you want to talk us through this?
Yeah, I mean, there will be collateral damage, which is kind of the point. If you look at the current state of the game, and I did this list after I read through the rules. So I did six points before six things like before the Six Nations, and I was a bit uncertain on the Seraphon summoning. I wanted to see it in action before I made up my mind.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't think it was that bent as it is. But the things that I thought up like before the Six Nations event is the following. So I'm just going to kick in some open doors here. Roll for who goes first. In case of a tie, the player who deployed first gets to decide.
Sorry. This is things that you think would fix the game.
No, that's not like. So the question about fixing the game is really fascinating because when you talk about fixing the game, you're like, who are you fixing it for?
Right. Okay.
And fixing it assumes it's broken. Yeah? And the game might be playing currently exactly as intended, and we don't know that that's true.
Okay.
Yeah, or not true. So as far as we can assume that this is exactly what everything's meant to be. So I would think that what Jonathan's proposing is so that games are potentially more enjoyable, more varied, and more fun.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Exactly.
But some people may not agree. And before we go any further, I do want to state that the person running the Bravery One British Open did a tweet, and that tweet was, would you like to see the feedback from the Six Nations event this weekend put into a pack for the Age of Sigmar event at Bravery One British Open?
Okay.
And 55% of those people said yes, but 45% said no. So there is a percentage of people who want the game to be exactly as it is right now. Yeah, so it would be unfair of us to not bring that information up. Yeah. Right, so I brought it up to let everyone know.
Let's just say 54% voted for Trump and it happens. So.
We'll leave that alone. So go on, John.
Donald Trump in this case.
Donald Trump, yeah.
No, but I mean, the motivation, we've gone through the motivation for roll-up a little bit. But I also like formations. You get command points, you still get bonuses, you get extra items. It's still good to take a formation. But the game won't end before it starts.
Yes.
2, picking a realm from your army, all generate items. I think the items are great. Me personally, I love the spells as well. I'm a big fan of Banishment, because I don't like Death Stars really. But I know that some people do not enjoy them as much.
So Banishment is a realm spell from the Malign Portents book.
Right.
Exactly.
From the Malign Portents book or the new... Right, Malign, okay. Yeah.
And picking the realm, like, it won't generate, like, you get extra rend on your arrows, because I think they're struggling enough with the points. To be fair, I think the points are quite good now, actually, for most of the units.
Frost Ice.
Yeah. Most of the units.
He did say most, he didn't say all. Yeah.
I think that the items is a great addition to the game, which can make us see a lot of different lists.
And these are the realm items, the realm specific items in the new.
Exactly.
In the new way of okay.
Yeah.
Malign sorcery one.
And so I'm a big fan of those, and I think those should be in the game. And I don't think there is an item in the game that causes a major issue. There are some strong ones, but I mean, there's some strong one in the army books as well. But overall, I like them a lot. Number 3, War Scroll rules do not take precedence over core/match play rules. So that will fix Rippers, it will fix Croak, it will fix any other bullshit, right?
What would it? Hang on, the problem. Sorry to stop you in your tracks a bit, but the problem with that is how many rules have been adjusted, or how many rules have been taken into account for that. So how many things would it nullify?
We've not seen any. There is no example.
Yeah, we've asked.
So there's nothing that...
We can't think of any, and if people do think of some, that would be cool to find out.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I think there must be an exception somewhere, but we just haven't seen it. And so
obviously,
if the exception
the
is that hard...
damage a lot anymore.
Yeah,
but if you look at Game for Mere Mortals,
yeah.
do we have an issue somewhere that this would cost? I don't think so. It's basically rule of one. And normally before AOS 2, most of the tournaments, apart from Games Workshop heats, had that you could not stack buffs like you do the same buff, the same unit.
So there's some good versions that we've talked about that it would affect. So Stormcast Evocators, ignore the rule of one, and also Yetis because they can pile in 6 inches, as do Sisters of Slaughter. Yeah, so there's some good examples, and it's worth having a conversation about that. But yeah, sorry, continue on, Jonathan. So far you roll off to see who goes first in the first turn. Yeah. So that stops that. Number two was
you only generate items when you pick a realm for your army.
What?
So you don't generate the realm bonuses and you don't generate the spells. You only generate.
So you don't play in a realm. You just play from a realm.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But it's fine that you're from a realm, right? And you brought your items, but you're not in that realm.
We're fighting in a neutral realm. We're fighting in the realm of Bobo.
Yeah, if you need a narrative for your match play games, that's your story.
We're playing in Switzerland.
Or at the All Points or somewhere like that.
Yeah. So then next is core war score rules don't override core rules.
And I think match play rules is the one. I mean, I said core rules, but I think match play rules or rule of one for wizards. I mean, we all know what we want, right? We want rule of one, basically, the old rule of one.
So next up,
so this one I have 2 variants on, and I think probably Nathan's version of this is the best one. But the same command ability can be used more than once per player turn, apart from Inspiring Presence, Running Charge, and March. Along that, more speed.
So you can't use the same command ability more than once per turn.
Yeah, and also there's another version of this where you can use the same command ability, but you cannot use it on the same unit, so you can't stack the buffs.
Yeah, which I think I prefer the second one personally.
Yeah, I think so too.
So you could cast Inspiring Presence 8 times if you want, if you've got 8 command points.
Yeah, that's fine, but you couldn't keep doing the Grot War Boss on a single unit.
He could tell one
like
group of lads to
earlier.
go and fuck up dudes, and then another group of lads and his Mangler Skrig.
Yeah.
But he can't tell the Mangler Skrig, do it again, do it better.
Yeah.
But you could just tell it yourself. Come on, Mangler Squig. Yeah, just do it better.
You already told me, man. I know what to do.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Number 5. This all ties in with the rule of one.
Yeah.
I know we might have some collateral damage from this one, but a unit cannot benefit from a prayer or ability more than once per turn.
Yeah. So the same prayer or ability once per turn.
Yeah. And I know Khorne like to do Killing Frenzy.
Yeah.
It's a big part of their Skull Reaper build. But
what's Killing Frenzy? What's that one?
It's just
so it does a lot of damage. It's a buff for you mainly put it on the Skull Reapers. You get mortal wounds on 6s and you boost their plus to hit, so you can do a bunch of mortal wounds.
Nice.
And it's a bit sad, but as I said, collateral damage. I still think Skull Reapers are good, even with the one buff.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Also, you get some more variety. You might see that brass skin. You might see other prayers that aren't used, so more variety, which is good.
Mm-hmm.
Number 6, paint your miniatures however you want them to look. You still get the bonuses, however, don't be a bitch.
So, for instance, I think Jonathan means if you're having a particular storm host, but it says your storm host has to be red, but you'd like to paint them as blue, that's fine. But if
I thought that wasn't a thing,
so it's suggested,
right,
and could potentially become a rule. So do you know what? Think ahead.
Yeah. Just make sure it definitely isn't a thing.
Yeah, so it's never ever a thing.
Yeah.
Good shout. Next up.
I mean, those are the main things.
What about moving after summoning?
Moving after summoning is a no-go. If you summon, that's your move. It will always be your move.
No closer than 9 inches. No moving. You've got a 9-inch charge unless you can buff the crap out of a charge.
Exactly.
You're staying there. Okay.
Exactly.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And it doesn't.
Sorry, go.
No. It just doesn't. So far, it doesn't sound like a lot, right?
No. It's basically. It's nothing that would. I mean, it would affect the things that are broken. And I'm not saying broken is it would win you every game. It's a broken game mechanic. It's a bug in the system, really. And as I said before, if somebody has a scenario where buff stacking would do harm to the game.
What, taking it out would do harm?
Yeah, post it so we can take it in consideration.
Yeah.
The things that I've been skeptical about from the start, and this one, I'm not a big fan of banning stuff. I'm not at all a big fan of banning.
I don't think anything should be banned. You just change the points.
I'm not a fan of rewriting scrolls either, actually, because that is by far a bigger work than just banning it outright if it's causing an issue.
Yeah.
But Spell Portal spontaneously can go and fuck itself, really. I mean, I think that when they introduced, I mean, it's a great piece. The idea is great, but I think when you put it in the game, I don't think they've considered who will be standing next to that Spell Portal. I mean, as we mentioned before, Nagash and company doing Beaver Fists and Mortal Wounds through that portal is obviously really good, and it's a non-interactive way.
Well, I would say I'd put that under proviso for me personally, and again, I haven't played against it at all yet enough to give fair feedback on where I'm at. I definitely know it. For me, the Spell Portal just feels like, obviously it's abusable by someone like Croak, but when Nagash is stood by a Spell Portal, I mean, that's great, you can do a bunch of spells, but can I write lists that are designed to tackle that? I think so. Can I include stuff in my army to stop magic and shut magic down against Nagash? Maybe not, but there are auto dispels in the game, which means it doesn't matter that he's rolled a 12 plus 4, I can just stop him.
Yeah.
So like
you can also just dispel it.
A little
right?
story. A guy in Sweden just played a game. I think it was today or yesterday.
Yeah.
We played versus Nagash, and Nagash took 700 points. Or Nagash company took 700 points out of his list without him being able to do anything. His story. Then again, he's playing Dispossessed, so.
Is he getting something to grumble about?
But I mean, I like the portal, and I don't like the portal. I think the portal is great for some spells.
You could just increase the cost. Manic in the chat here, 321 has just said you can increase the price of the spell portal and its cost. So that could be something to look at. So, but
maybe. But I feel like going in and changing scrolls, it's a bit of too much work instead of just no, it's not allowed.
I don't know. It could be fun. I mean, you could say that the spell only goes through on like a 4-up, but if you roll a 1, the spell is reflected.
That's
I mean,
so it works a bit like a realm gate.
I would love that.
That's a fucking dicey. That's a risky dice roll, right? You're closing your eyes and you're rolling the dice. You're like, I wonder have I lost?
Nagash kills himself on a 1. Oh no!
I would love that. I think that's a great thing. I think all the players who plays with that portal would love the portal.
Yeah.
But I think that the super competitive.
But everybody can have the portal.
Yeah, everyone can have the portal.
Yeah, so everybody can't abuse the portal.
Yeah, so for instance, some people have just better magic armies.
Yeah. I mean, the Dispossessed can take the portal, but they're just not going to do anything with it. Just look at it, maybe shine it.
This would make a cracking shield.
No, Dispossessed can ally in some Stormcast wizards to do it.
But then they're not.
Because that's what all the articles kept saying.
Yeah. So that's something that needs to be looked at, right? And I think that's really interesting. But what John, is there anything else on the list?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely.
But are those the key points?
The key point, no, there's one more actually, and I think it really needs to be sorted out. And I think the Engine of the Gods. And I saw Jack's proposal.
Yeah.
That the engine gives 7 points. I think that's a good one. I was a bit more radical, which was if you roll a summoning result, you re-roll, which isn't. I mean, it's a nerf, but in the same time, it's a buff because it gives you another chance of that 666 or whatever. But again, I'm not a fan of changing scrolls.
Same. The points can fix it, right?
But that one, I mean, we can't have Seraphon summoning 1,000 extra points before the game. It's silly.
With the rule of one
should not be in the game.
Well, you could potentially, you could only.
Is it not a spell?
You could have it that you could only summon 1 extra unit a turn. Yeah, and that could be a really simple fix. Like every turn, you can effectively summon 1 extra unit, and you could do it even in both players' turns. So people like Khorne, who could potentially put units down in your opponent's hero phase because of blood tide points and stuff. That's still fine. Just in each player's turn, you can only summon 1 unit to the board. Something simple. Yeah?
Well, you could include that in a rule of 1.
Yeah.
So rule of 1 is you can only summon a unit once per turn.
So
okay.
So
that makes sense.
with the list, we'll get on to we'll talk about a little bit more about it and what we think. But with that list, what I'm going to do for the Honest Wargamer is put that out. I'll put it on our Facebook, our Twitter. I'll attach it to the blog. And if you guys want to use that as a way to have possibly more fun pickup games over the next few weeks until, well, I don't know when Games Workshop may or may not release an FAQ, but to me a lot of those seem fairly balanced, and I think that no matter what sort of game I'd play, I'd probably want most of those to be in, unless I was practicing for a tournament, and in which case I would always obviously use whatever was out, and I would try to use the most abusable list within the rules. And the reason for that is that's what you do. You do not take a fucking sponge stabby knife,
one of those retractable
to a full melee with warriors in iron plate and short swords. It's ridiculous. But to have a more fun game, like Nathan, I plan to ask you to play some games this week. Do you think that you'd feel more comfortable playing with that, knowing I've got a Seraphon army, with us playing under those provisos?
Yeah, I think most of those seem fairly decent. I'm still, for me, the jury's still out on the first turn thing, but yeah, the rest of them I'm more happy with.
Actually, I thought of a better wording, I think, for number 3. War School rules do not take precedence over wizard rules / attack more than once rules, because I think those are the ones that are causing the issue, really. And to summarize the list, it's basically, it's the roll-off you have in 40k, which is great for the game. It's no buff stacking, because it's also great for the game. That's it, basically. It's not. But that small little flip of a button would change the game.
Okay.
Could not be broken, really.
So we'll send that out as we'll put that up, and if anyone wants to use it, I think that makes it fun. Obviously, you talk to your opponent and say, "Hey, Adam, I'd like to play a game with this," and especially for new people, because obviously it's an exciting time. Sigmar's just come out. Loads of people picking up the Soul Wars box and being really excited. Like they might want to go. Do you know what? I'd like to have a game. And what we can do as gamers that, if you listen to the show, I assume you play enough to be fairly competent. You can say, do you know what, I'll put those restrictions in, because then that might make the game a little bit more fun. You know, just for the interim. And I hope, like everyone does, there's that guy off that podcast that's terrible, the one that's the bad one, Nath. What's his name?
Which podcast?
He's in there. That fella.
Oh, John.
Yeah.
That podcast does hardly ever do podcasts anyway.
So that might make a really good kind of comp system, and that's what comp is, Adam. What it is a bunch of rules put in place before a tournament, which mean obviously you look at your army list again, and it's a bunch of rules that are added onto the game by independent people to make the game.
People running the tournament.
And some people do it. Some people do it for balance, but that's a bit of a myth in our hobby and a bit of a myth in the game. And whether or not that's ever achievable is thing. But what it might definitely do is make games more interactive and enjoyable, and that's very fun. But to be fair, again about the weekend, everyone that I've talked to said they had an incredible weekend at the Six Nations.
Absolutely.
So
do you need to fix something where people still had fun?
Exactly. That's a great question.
The thing is, we would have fun if me and Nathan were playing open play. We would still have fun.
Yes.
But for match play should be able to be match play without the feel bads, if you know what I mean.
But is it so bent that it's actually funny? So you turn up.
Well, yeah,
once.
turn up, Rob, but is it funny 6 months down the line?
No, true.
Like, and is it funny when you're new? Like you talked about the game you and your brother had on Friday with the Soul Wars box, where you had the Stormcast, which had a couple of hundred more points in the box, and he felt really disheartened by the game.
Yeah, he did. I felt great. But,
you felt great. He felt disheartened. But then, you divide the community. You divide the community by people who have a bad time and people who have a good time. Now, some people lose and have a terrible time all the time when they lost. For instance, I was at the 40k Heat this weekend, and I played 2 games on Friday, and I won 2 games. And I lost 5 out of 7, and only one of those games did I not enjoy because I thought he was cheating effectively. But the 2 games I lost against Nick and against Dan were cracking, and the 2 games I lost on the Friday against the Slanesh army and against Stefan with his Grey Knights was cracking, and I had a great time because it felt fair, it felt balanced, it felt good. And for me that should be that. But anyway, anyone got any more to say on that?
I don't think so, man.
Well then, let's move on to fuck me sideways. Let's move on to the Australians. Yeah?
Uh-oh.
Because as we know,
Nice.
because as we know, they don't have a fucking clue what's going on, right? And everyone listening in Australia, I think the affectionate term that my friend Dan, Beardy Dan, came up with is "eat a bag of dicks." That's the correct phrase to talk to Australians. Is that now they all have friends? We'll answer some questions in a minute. I got tweeted by Mr. Sneezy on Twitter, and this is an important thing. Mr. Sneezy, it's a person on Twitter, tweeted me, said, so the second ranked player. So the second best player in Australia currently, in the Australian Masters League, is currently a hashtag Swifthawk Agents player.
This is great. This is so good, man.
All hail the new Swifthawk Agents meta. Adam, would you like to ask some questions about that? And Nathan and Jonathan, would you like to respond?
Swifthawk, I was reading a book, the Stormcast book. This book. I was reading this, and they mentioned
Swifthawk Agents.
Swifthawk Agents.
Yeah.
Agents.
Yeah.
They're postmen, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're the
That's
postmen.
all I know about them. That's it. Sorry.
They're the postmen.
They're postmen. They're runners. They're messengers, and they use the realm gates a lot.
So in Australia, I think they play whoever gets the letter to the door the fastest wins the game.
Is that right?
I fucking love those guys.
So why is that? So why is it so different from here then? I know it's upside down.
Because then I don't know. Like, so number one, so when I interviewed Dan with his Dispossessed, he came 8th at a tournament with the Dispossessed Force, who Nathan and Jonathan have both taken to tournaments, and if they can win a couple of games, they're like, I am fucking smashing this. Yeah, right.
Okay.
Yeah, and Dan said that basically what he did was he just lost for 2 years. Yeah, and he learned every way to lose with the Dispossessed, and then eventually got to the stage where he's like, and then eventually I lost a little bit less every tournament, which is winning. Yeah. But I think at that point he was like, he was only counting the other way. Yeah, he was like, right, okay, just don't lose 4. Yeah. Oh, I didn't lose 2, right? And I think those guys just play a bunch. They've got a really incredible community. But I think big shout out to the Swifthawk Agents player, right? And the reason that's unlikely is because they're not great.
Right.
Unless we're all wrong.
Do we know what his list has been? Do we know why? What's the... How
The thing is, they're
it's
dead
been?
fast, and I think for objective play, that's not a bad thing.
Is it because it's winter there and they're all semi-hibernated?
Jay
So one guy turns up with a fast list and that, it's truth, mate. I was fucking asleep.
Oh, fuck me, mate. Have you seen how fast that fucking boat's gone? It's 'cause... and also, a big shout out to Jay Tucker, who's just in the chat. Fleshhound meta incoming to beat the postman. Right? So loads of dogs to bite the postman.
No! Dungeons and
Doggos.
Doggos! Dungeons and Doggies.
What?
Dungeons and Doggies. Or
Dungeons and Doggies. Yeah,
Griffhounds.
Swifthawk Agents and Doggies. And that leads me on, and that's great, because that leads me on to my final point for today, in that what's incredible about the Australians... the doggo.
I put my foot on a dog.
What's incredible about the doggos, no, not the doggos, the Australians, and what's incredible about Jonathan's point and some of the other people and the event of the weekend is no matter what's happening with the game, and Jonathan, this is where I'm getting you in the game, no matter what's happening with the game is you get to play with the people who you really like. Yeah. And that's where it gets exceptional. Because for me, and this is probably true for most people, the best bit about the game is that we get to meet awesome, cool people. So my challenge is to you, Adam, Nathan, Jonathan, and me, and I'm going to start, and everyone on the Twitch chat, and I'm going to ask people on Facebook and Twitter to either tweet the Honest Wargamer or tweet our Facebook page, And what I'll do is I'll write them all out and I'll talk about them next time. So we'll do like a mailbag section. Is who your favourite person is to play in Age of Sigmar, and why, like who your favourite player is, because effectively, when people get sad about the game, the rules maybe not being great at the minute, or maybe they got taken off in a turn, that can be a little bit upsetting, and I understand that. And I think there's loads of things we can do to fix it, and the community can do loads to be better examples and community leaders, because we should ask for more. So, but playing the games against people you like, whether or not you win or lose, is fucking great fun.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter if the rules are bent, as long as you're having a laugh, because I can just break the rules or just fucking do what I want. And my favourite person to play in the world is Nathan. Right? That's what I'm calling. Because probably if he ever took a bent list, we'd all lose every game ever.
Yeah.
That's true. Number 2, he's hilarious. Number 3, I'm never quite sure if he's ever going to shout "War" and embarrass me in public. which makes me feel awkward. Yeah.
I mean, you can tend to be loud enough for yourself. You don't need somebody shouting "Wah" next to you.
My least favourite person to play, by the way, is Mark Wildman because he wears flip-flops all the time, and I think he's a bellend. Yeah.
Everybody to the next. What's your next one? Throne of Skulls. Everybody going to Throne of Skulls wear flip-flops. Even if it gets raining and crap, wear flip-flop. I'm gonna.
So Nathan's my favourite. He's amazing. If you ever get the opportunity to play him, like I know the first Brain Creek did at the weekend, you should play him.
Can I play you?
Oh,
Yeah.
Adam, who's your favourite person to play?
I probably should say my brother because I bet he's watching. But I'm actually going to say my fiance.
What was she playing?
Well,
and what's his name?
You did. It could have been a he. I have nothing against if it was a he.
Good.
But
Mark
in my case,
Mark was asking about you in the chat just now. So
who's Mark?
Mark Wildman.
Yeah, he says you're a cutie.
Oh, well, I'm sure he is too.
Oh God.
No, I like playing against her because she doesn't give a fuck whether she wins or loses.
She's enjoying herself.
She's humouring me, let's be honest. She doesn't really care about the game. She's just humouring me and we're just sat rolling dice at each other and it becomes about, oh, I roll some dice against you, oh no! And it's about that. It's not about, I desperately want to beat you. Me and my brother get a bit too competitive, I think.
Yeah.
And other people I've played against, it is maybe a bit more about winning sometimes. Yeah. So yeah, if you could just take out the need to win, then it's
narrative play,
hilarious.
mate. You should go to Raw. You'll have a great time. We'll tell you about that on another show. Jonathan, who's your favourite to play?
That's really hard. I mean, all of the players that I play, I don't have a bad experience really from Age of Sigmar. I mean, I've been finger blasted. I mean, I think I had Tom Maudsley's whole arm up my asshole, but I still enjoyed it.
Like, you enjoyed it a lot.
Yeah.
Who was that?
Tom Maudsley.
Tom Maudsley.
Yeah. Oh, right. Fantastic.
I mean, it's a great game, and the people who play it, it's really hard. Everybody has their quirks, which makes them fun to play against. So to pick a favorite quirk. I mean, Nathan is great. You were great.
I'm not great.
You're great to play against.
So right. But so Tom.
What you shouldn't do though. Don't fucking give out those free revos, man. That's free revos. You think you can win so easy? Stop that shit, man. I don't want your fucking pity.
And then Nathan, you're not allowed to pick me. Who's your favourite person?
No, well, I was going to say you're in the top, definitely in the top
20,
top 5, 3 maybe, because it's just great.
Pick one.
You got to pick one. It's really good humour. Pick one. I really like playing against Steve Foot.
Yeah.
It's a pretty good laugh.
He is a fucking fun person.
I'd say he's maybe my favourite player. Although I think my favourite game was when I played against Jonathan when he was playing.
Yeah, that was mental.
Good game. So yeah.
And we were so drunk as well. I almost bought candies and Argyle. It was above my head for sure.
Yeah,
it was so good, man.
Yeah, it was so tactical. It was out of our realms of.
It was Iron Jaws versus Dispossessed, so it was the most hyper advanced cripple fight you can ever see. Like, I was like, I got it. Oh, he got it. I got it. Fuck, he got it.
Was it the equivalent of people on wheelchairs jousting?
Yeah, we didn't know who won at the end.
By the way, great Olympic sport potentially.
Should be.
Yeah.
Should be.
Fucking go.
Office chair jousting.
And so. Everyone else in the chat, please let us know who your favourite person to play is. Mark Wyman says I'm his favourite to play against. Big Old Fish, my mate who got me into the hobby 18 years ago, is still my favourite.
I'm going to call you on your shit here.
Yeah.
Mark Wyman actually said Rob's awful. He's the saltiest. See you next Tuesday. I know.
Yeah. That's true. I was lying. My mate who got me into the hobby 18 years ago is still my favourite person to play against. I've only beaten him a few times. But he's a great player who makes the games difficult, says a Big Old Fish.
First Brain Screek, you're definitely in the top 3 as well.
Yeah. Just get me started. Bobot will be insane, says WS10P. And again, Chris Frostrin, favourite person to play in OS, 2 positions still open, so he wants someone to play against. So Chris Frostrin. Cool. Tiny King, I always feel super guilty when I win a game. So yeah, let us know. Giant Pick, thanks for stalking us on Twitch. So yeah, tweet us, Facebook us, drop us a message. Don't, like, do it publicly. Just say this is my favourite person to play and why, because that's going to be the thing about Age of Sigmar over the next few weeks and the next few months. I saw earlier someone, Age's First Brain Squeak, said that the game is going to be very different in 2 months with the FAQs and with people saying, and it's only the people complaining fairly. Our Tiny King, thanks for subscribing on Twitch. It's only the people fairly complaining, like we saw Jack do and we saw Donal do, and people playing with the armies and breaking the game a bit, that potentially is going to lead us to have those things change. It's never the player's faults, it's the game design that we need to look at.
It's not really complaining, it's constructive criticism.
It is, and that's where it needs to be measured.
You're also not going to bust out those sort of lists against your mates, really, are you?
Unless you've agreed that before ahead of time.
Exactly. Let's test how bent this list is. And you'll probably do that for 10 minutes, go, okay, I've deleted most of your army, that's stupid, let's play a proper game. You know, you're going to, right? Or is it... Or are you going to try and take them?
Well, it depends. Especially what's really awkward, especially, is when you're playing someone new. Yeah.
Right.
So you're playing someone new, and not as in they're new to the game, as in someone you haven't played before.
Right.
Because you actually don't know where their level is. So you message someone, say, "Hey, does anyone fancy a game at my local club tonight?" And they're like, "Yeah, I'll play a game." But then they're like super competitive. And this is the problem we talked about that piece where just don't take the powerful thing. But if me and Nathan are arranging a game, I know that we can just play a game, and that's fine. Yeah. However, if I'm playing someone new, I don't know, and I have a conversation, I'm like, how far are we taking this? Because if they'd like to play a competitive AOS game, they can currently put Croak on the board and just wound me through a spell portal. And that's where the game design doesn't help people have new interactions with each other. It doesn't help us develop an interaction. And because your version of competitive, as an example, Adam, might be very different to my version of competitive.
Oh, probably.
My tone down list might be your like, holy crap, you did this to me.
Yeah.
And there's
it kind of was. We played a 40k game.
Yes.
I took a nice list.
And that's where the issue really lies, I think, and why maybe that list that we wrote might help a bunch of people have more fun interactive pickup games.
Yeah.
Where they're like, I've met someone new for the first time, and then you get a measure of a person and you understand what they're like. Yeah. And then you can be like, oh, okay, we don't need this is fine.
Is that what open play's for, though?
No, open play is
but
open play is very different because again, it's the same contract. Points are actually the contract we use to have a more balanced and fair game.
Yeah.
I say I'm going to play a 2,000 point game against you. You say you're going to play a 2,000 point game against me. And our contract is that we can't take anything outside of that.
Yeah.
So realistically, we hope the game is balanced enough that our 2,000 points kind of make it so that we can have a game.
Yeah.
That's not always true, but that's the social contract.
I think we've discussed.
Is it not?
We've learned that today. I'm just going to take a grot.
Huh?
I'm just going to take a grot.
A really fucking hard grot. Okay. Yeah. So that's my thought. So tweet us, Facebook us. We're live every Monday on the honest-wargamer talking about Age of Sigmar, and we do loads of exclusive content on Patreon. We do daily videos and we do loads of other stuff, and I'm going to be interviewing loads of people. So if you fancy supporting the show, because we're independent and paid for by the people who support us, so everyone on Patreon and on Twitch who subscribes or is a Patreon who helps us do really good content and that's honest and fair, thank you. That's great. And you should join us. You guys got anything you're feeling about Age of Sigmar at the minute?
Shiny and new, isn't it? There's going to be some kinks. And I think, like you say, I think there's, at the moment, you need to be more open and kind of have the pre-conversation with your mates if you're playing against them. More so at the moment than ever. Maybe before Games Workshop actually fix some mistakes.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with a few kinks, that's for sure.
Yeah. So I think you just need to maybe have the open conversation and say, right, we know this is bent as fuck. Let's not do that. Let's just have a normal game.
Yeah. I mean, in tournaments, people are going to take... Some people are going to take super hard lists. Some people will just take the list that they want to take, and they're going to just have fun. So,
yeah. Are there any other major tournaments coming up, like this weekend or the one after?
There's a 32-player, I think, in the northeast somewhere. Yeah. I don't know if it's a 2-day. It might be a 1-dayer. I think there's one in Derby as well, a 1-dayer. I think it's probably space for 40 players, but they'll probably only get about 20 to 30.
Yeah.
And again, it's a 1-dayer.
Right.
Yeah. We think.
And then I suppose the largest scale one coming up is obviously the Bobo, which we're doing coverage at.
Yeah.
Which is going to be really exciting, and I'm really excited about that. It's going to be a good laugh, and it's really interesting to see what John decides to do with if he decides to put a comp pack in at all. And again, to be fair, like we said, 55% of the people were like yay, 45% are nay. So as a TO, he's got to be quite worried because there are going to be some people who aren't going to agree, and then they might not want to come to the event. But you know, is he doing like that's the difficult part about being a TO, and also obviously now in 40k it's already done. No one plays 40k the way Age of Sigmar promotes it and puts it out.
Games Workshop, you mean?
Games Workshop,
Yeah.
not at all. You either play ETC rules or you play ITC rules. And the only people that play 40k out of the book are people in stores and the 400 people that go to the 4 individual 100-person events
Heats,
at
like
the
every
Heats
weekend.
at Warhammer World. And that's it across the world. Every other 40k player, competitive 40k player, and arguably ITC and ETC have more competitive players and more people who play more games in their communities than Games Workshop do. They play under comp, which is either done through ITC by Frontline Gaming or ETC in the European Team Championships gaming pack.
Right,
so that's
okay.
fascinating,
Yeah.
realistically, and obviously for the 40k community, that's been set in stone for a while.
Is there not one for AOS then?
There never has been because we've never needed one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Have you never needed one, or is there?
Well, there
arguable
was,
we
it sounds
yeah,
like you
there
know,
was a
Vanguard
comp
Wing
pack
and
at the
stuff.
beginning, which everybody used, which was MoComp, but that's where we got points from. And then we started using South Coast comp because that's where the points migrated from Mo to there. But then once the general handbook came around, then we just used that.
Because it launched without points.
Yeah,
didn't it?
yeah.
Yeah, I didn't know it then.
But yeah,
I think it
and
was
then in
only
8th
around-
edition, there were a lot of people would use like the Slaughter pack or the South Coast pack or something like that, and that they would be their comp things whilst.
I think tournament packs is it's a good thing. I mean, they can also mix up like how you play the game, but overall, like the comp pack, like they for Slaughter last year, it's no major thing. It's only like the bulletin points I put up here is just to stop the abuse, really, which is fair, but I don't think people mind overall.
And also, and I will say, Adam, like that. Also, one of my feelings and the thing, because obviously we do a 40k show on Thursdays, talking 40k with Tom and Nikos, and those guys are obviously heroes. What's really interesting when we talk about that and we talk to that community about 40k is their community is quite divided. So people are playing under different game systems, so you can never really tell if a unit is good or bad because, well, sometimes you can definitely tell they're bad.
Well, that's the thing with comp is all comp does is rarely is take something that's makes different things broken, basically. So this comp pack makes this set of stuff broken, and this comp pack will make this set of stuff broken.
It's just shifting.
Yeah,
It moves the goalposts.
Yeah.
And
So-
doesn't necessarily fix the goalposts.
Sometimes it makes the goalposts wider, sometimes it makes them slimmer.
Is it the
But-
spinning plates? It's that.
I think
So you
I
can
think
only
the big
keep hold of
difference
this
is
bit.
the big difference between 40k and Age of Sigmar is 40k playing ITC and ETC. It really changes how we play the game, right?
Yeah.
Whilst
Yeah.
the things we have in Age of Sigmar, I mean, the game still plays the same. In general, it plays the same, but there are some field bads that are shut down, really, and those field bads can be different. But overall, the game plays the same. It's mostly the same scenarios and so on.
And Pete in the chat has said the thing, and that's why we've suggested this list, and we'll put this list up. Is comp doesn't balance because, as I said, their balance doesn't really exist.
No.
What it does is it just makes more interactive games potentially. Yeah. Now we could be wrong, 100%. But some of those games didn't sound interactive to a degree. Or most importantly, if you aren't prepared, if you're not one of, don't forget these are some of the best players in the world playing this weekend. Yeah. Well, they think they are. Your choice, right? and
Western Europe.
yeah, Western Europe, yeah. So they think, I mean, obviously the Zimbabwe League, whew, what's important about the Zimbabwe League is we don't talk about the Zimbabwe League. Yeah? Yeah, get ready.
Wow.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you'll get a visit from a Tokoloch.
And I don't even know what that is since I crossed over the Zambezi.
I just don't want to visit.
Yeah, that's my issue.
Don't visit me.
So the thing is, it might just make more interactive games. And realistically, when we talked about who your favourite people to play are and what's going on, you ask yourself, what do you want? Do you want super competitive, which means really you're taking the element of, I want you to have fun. In a competitive environment, realistically, I'd like you to have fun, but I'd like to beat you. Yeah? When I'm playing games, I'm playing games. The game is, we're all having fun, right? And maybe it'll make it more interesting. I don't know. Yay? No?
I think there was, who was it who said it earlier? Morglum Storm Smasher. So we don't want an ETC OTC in NOS. I guess we don't want to have to. We don't want the need for one, right?
Yeah.
So
and I promise,
we want Games Workshop to look at this, to listen to the feedback,
and hopefully the
respond
FAQ that they're
accordingly.
going to bring out, which they say they'll
Do we
bring
know
out
there is one?
Well, yeah. After 2 weeks after a thing, there will
Yeah.
be an FAQ.
That's what their promise was.
that's so
Although the 40k one was
Delayed.
28 days late.
Wow.
They should not make such promises. They should be dynamic in their
Yeah.
FAQ.
I mean, if you look at there's an FAQ picture, and it shows arrows and stuff, and the email address, and so it shows it's coming.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, and hopefully it might be next week, something like that. Yeah.
Well, technically, it's coming.
Yeah.
Technically, it might be.
Yeah, it's like tomorrow. It's always going to be there. Yeah.
No, I mean, as involved as they are with the community, I think they can be a bit more on the ball, and I think they could be a bit more dynamic in their FAQing and errata system. Just then, instead of having this set up 2 weeks after a battle zone comes out, because stuff will be missed in 2 weeks as well.
Yeah, exactly.
Just be more dynamic with this stuff, and I think everybody will be more happy. That being said, though, I really don't want to bitch about they actually doing FAQs, because there was the Dark Age, but it didn't do any FAQs. So hey, tread carefully, I guess.
Yeah. It's good that the FAQs are coming, and I think, I mean, obviously they won't FAQ everything that everybody wants them to FAQ, and they might FAQ some stuff that people would rather they left alone. But I think it'll bring more balance to the force. There you go.
Yeah, more balance to the force. Yeah. So Jelly Pie, who just kept writing its coming name, so he got a 600 second timeout. You fucking nerd. Oh, there we go.
He's a clever man, that man.
What?
He's clever.
He is a clever
it's
man.
coming on.
Right.
Whatever.
So really exciting times to be in Age of Sigmar. Adam, thanks for being on the show.
Thanks for having me.
Jonathan, thanks for being on the show.
Thanks, buddy.
No problem. Nathan, thanks for being on the show.
Thank you for having me, sir.
My pleasure.
You're his favourite.
Let me just double check and make sure I've gone through all my notes. Oh wait, finally! Fuck me, sorry. Stormcast and Nighthawk books.
What are those?
Yes! Adam, you excited about the Stormcast book?
No, not really.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Tell us your feelings.
I love it, but it's. I mean, there's lots of lore. I haven't got through much of it. Nathan, you guys can kind of see. I haven't got through a huge amount of it, but it's. I mean, I got the special one.
That's where you are, where the string is.
Yeah. So I haven't gone over much. I literally started reading it today, properly today. But I don't know. I'm proper excited for it, and I can't really tell you exactly why because
number 70. Hey?
Number 70. I know. I was quite happy with that. Quite a low number.
That's pretty good.
But I think it's great because there's so many. They're now showing that Stormcasts are not infallible. There's some really great bits in there.
I'm just sending that to Dan. Carry on.
There's some really great bits in there that kind of pick out that basically the whole place. And I don't really want to spoil it too much, but I'm gonna. There's Sigmar realised, oh shit, Nagash has done some bad shit. So you guys that were looking after the Anvil of Apotheosis, that is the thing that reforges all Stormcast, fucking drop tools, bugger off, go and kill all that shit, and just leave that. We'll let that fuck up. So because of that, there's loads and loads more defects coming into the Stormcast. So it's making them all a lot more crazy.
So what as a new player, what really drew you, out of all the factions out there, what drew you to Stormcast specifically?
They were shiny and gold.
Well, they're not all shiny and gold.
No, they're not.
Every Stormcast player will tell you that.
No, exactly. So, initially it was just that me and my brother got the starter set, and somehow we ended up splitting.
How did you not pick Spoopy Ghosts?
Well, no, it was the previous
Soul Wars box.
So this, the very first one.
Okay. So Khorne and Stormcast.
So he had Khorne. I had Stormcast. I don't even remember making that decision. It was just bang. Yeah, let's do that. Done. And then from there, obviously, I've just carried on collecting them. I've tried other armies. I've tried Seraphon a bit, and was thinking about getting some Idoneth Deepkin, and then they came out with all the shiny new stuff.
Yeah, so I haven't read it yet because I was at a tournament the weekend. I know for a fact that I think what I'm going to do, and I don't know if anyone else is going to do this, I'm going to, over the next 2 weeks, so we're going to wait for, before we cover them on the show, we're obviously going to wait for the FAQ to come out, because that might radically change some elements of both of those books. Yeah. It may have no effect, but it might change some things. So we'll review it after, but I'm definitely going to read the story. I'm really excited about the Stormcast story and the Nighthaunt story. Jonathan, you excited about either of those two?
Well, I like the ghosts, right? The models are amazing, and it'll be interesting to see what the tome has to offer. But I have bought just looked for my packages because I didn't get a notice that it had arrived. It arrived a week ago, actually. But I haven't picked up the start box yet. But I have bought it. But I'm thinking of shifting the models, just keeping the tokens and shit. But I think I'll probably... Okay, listen here. I have my Iron Jaws looking at me. I've painted up a Deep King Force. That's done. But I think I might actually paint my own Dispossessed.
King of 1984 has said that I've beaten you for a year, so I think that's your brother Adam right there.
Yes. Yeah, he did beat me for a year.
Yeah, John. For me, I'm really excited about the lore and the narrative. I think, and this is where, given props. This is we've smashed it. Next week, let's talk about the lore from the core book. How does that sound? That sound like a great day. Yeah, chatting about the stories. You up for that?
Yes.
Nate?
Yeah. Always ready to talk about the lore.
The stories.
The fluff.
Oh, don't make Phil Kelly cry. Every time we say fluff, yeah.
He's not listening to me.
Phil Kelly listens.
Every time you say fluff, Phil Kelly kills a grot.
I don't give a shit. That's what grots are for. Dying.
Killing things with 190.
Well, you have to kill every grot before it's really easy to kill the 2 war bosses. That's...
If you can't do that, why bother
then you're
playing?
Obviously an idiot and don't know how to play Warhammer. Clearly. Yeah? And with that, we need a good sign-off. Can we just say, this has been an amazing day and has been the busiest show we've ever had. So, like most people we've ever had, I think at one point we had 150 people watching, which is obviously amazing because we're an independent outfit and, I'm a moron, and it's only because Jonathan, Nathan and Adam are here that's why people like it. So big shout out to you guys, thanks. If you've really enjoyed it, obviously we're going to put it up as a podcast and as a VOD and put it on YouTube. Share it out with some people. Tweet us, say you enjoyed the show. That would be cool, be helpful, maybe help some other people out. Help us out. So basically what I'm asking is, please could you tweet it out, or Facebook it out, or put it in Facebook groups, or tell your nan.
Chisel it onto a stone tablet.
Do that.
Carry it down from the mountain.
Yeah, that. Jonathan, go reeving in a Viking longboat, telling people about the show.
Have we got any town criers?
Do you even sail, man?
Do you even sail? I don't actually sail. Do you actually sail?
Yeah, I've sailed. I've sailed a lot, actually. I've sailed from Sweden down to Portugal. It's a funny story. I can take it next Monday, actually. Because we didn't know how to sail and we just did it.
Yeah, in their longboats, fucking shields and everything.
I was going to say, I've seen that show.
We had a sailing boat, but we used the motor the whole way because sailing sucks.
Anyway, yeah, this wouldn't have been possible without people on Twitch and Patreon helping keep the show going. We've now got 3 whole lights, which is amazing. Jonathan helping me out, Nathan and Adam. Thank you. Everyone let Adam know how he's done. I'm live again tomorrow doing some hobby at 7 o'clock, and we're here on Thursday doing 40k. Happy with that? We're here every Monday on Age of Sigmar. I can't believe we're all doing a dance. Sigmar's fine. Everyone on Twitch is great. Thank you very much. Thanks for being here. You guys are wonderful, and we'll see you soon.
It's coming home.
No, fuck. It's coming home. Fuck me.